I can't be late, but I also can't expect that the things that we need for our meeting are provided on time in accordance with the procedures. Thank you very much.
I'm going to call a Village Council work session meeting March 28, 2019.
Great how you impose that as the leader of the village.
For the call to order. And then we now have a quorum. First up is adoption of the agenda. We have any changes or subtractions?
Let's move the presentations above the public hearing since AMT's been here waiting for us for 30 minutes.
They've actually been here since 10, haven't they?
Or since 10, so for an hour and a half. But waiting for us for 30 minutes.
Okay. Anything else?
Everybody okay with that?
That's perfectly fine with me. I do have other changes. The resident, I don't know who added the resident proposal for investigation.
I thought we pushed it over because we were going to think about it and continue to discuss it.
Yeah, I didn't know what was on there.
I didn't ask to put it back on. I thought you all decided you really didn't want to go anywhere with it. So it's up to you. Do you want it on there or not?
I mean, I thought when we were going to all think about it and look at it and decide together if we wanted to move forward and or look at the list and see what, if we did want to move forward. Well,
Why don't we move it to the regular meeting when Nick's here?
Okay.
You guys okay with that?
Yep.
I'd also like to consider conflict of interest and disclosure form.
And you moving it to another meeting?
Table that to the next.
Regular meeting?
Yeah, I'm sure we won't pass it on the first day, but I wanted to aim for that so that it's circulated for everyone to review by then, so yes.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, and hold on, and what else did you table?
I think there was consensus to.
I tabled the number 7, the proposal for investigation, until Nick can be here at the regular meeting.
Oh, okay, but did you table something other than the residence policy?
So far I've made it through, the conflict of interest part?
Conflict, okay.
Okay, so yeah, that would like to circulate before the next meeting, but.
And I'll just throw out item number 2. I've spoken with Phil. We feel like we have a good provision to add to the contract with DOT. So if y'all want to remove that and give Phil time to get some provisions added in, we can talk about it in his report. But
the resolution to.
Because I'm not really 100% sure, and that's obviously what caused a lot of this in the first place. Can we just leave it where it is and then until we get past the investigation? Because I'm a little overwhelmed by everything I'm getting all at one time. So the next item.
Hold on. Can I ask a question real quick?
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Well, no, about that item. Is that the memo that we received this morning?
It is. It goes along with that.
Yes, but it's also a packet from May 18th that I have been looking for forever and finally received. Thank you, Barbie, for sending it.
You're welcome.
But I had to be, like Raiders of the Lost Ark looking for it for 6 months.
Okay, so let's just make sure the record's right. The conflict of interest, you want to move to the regular meeting or just table it all together?
No, I'd like to table it for the regular meeting.
Okay.
Mainly because I think that will ensure that Christina and I look at the draft that was out there, and then we can circulate it in the packet even if we don't do anything at that meeting.
Okay.
And then the last item is discussion consideration of the August 9th meeting 11, the minutes. I just wanted to clarify, are those are the toned down minutes, right, Barbie?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yes, and they all have track changes, and the track changes, I just took what the transcription company did, and I just did the track changes all the way through.
For that motion.
Yes.
So I was waiting for those ones to come in before I applied my changes, so I haven't done that yet, but I read through yours.
Okay.
So you want to pull that?
Yeah, I have to pull those.
And that was August 9th.
That's 11.
So are we tabling it or just?
Tabling it, yeah, we have to come back and.
So we're tabling 7 and 8.
And 11.
And 11. Or we're pulling, okay.
So can I ask a quick question about minutes, since we're talking about minutes now? So Robert, you and Nick said that you were good with whatever changes we make. Mary, I know I went through a whole bunch with Barbie. Was this the only one? So you haven't gone through?
No, that's because I didn't want to make any more changes until I saw after you made your motion to pare them down, I stopped because I thought, I'm not going to make changes to something she's not finished with.
Okay.
So now I'm waiting for her to send over the pared down minutes, and then I'll apply my changes on top.
Okay, Barbie, can you send Mary the minutes that didn't need to be pared down, that I said that I had made changes, we had made changes, and you were all good with? So that we can at least try to get some minutes
Yeah, I'm
approved, because
afraid
it's
of
like,
doubling the work or making, over confusing
I
it.
believe I already did that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I-
the ones that, I think
that-
you may have.
Yes,
The
I
ones
think I've
that-
already done that.
but we've got like
Um,
May 31st, July 10,
yeah,
July
she's got-
30.
She's got all of those.
Okay.
I've already sent all of those. What I'm working on are the ones that the transcription company.
Okay, so everything that you and I worked on, she has now.
Yes.
To look at.
Yes,
Okay.
because
there
I.
was
The
a-
changes I'm looking at are what Kim put out?
Yes,
Yeah? Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And they're the ones that I've put, the initials beside who made those changes.
Okay, great.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to, because I was like, is this the only one that we've gotten to?
Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
So we're gonna pull these August 9th until when?
Till the next
Till
regular
till-
meeting.
In April, the April meeting?
Yeah, so that, I'll make that my goal if we don't overload that meeting to try and get through all the
Okay,
minutes.
okay,
We need to add
Yeah, that's
the,
this.
okay, but I think, are you good with all your changes?
Back to the agenda,
Yeah?
that's it for me.
Okay.
I think,
And,
Robert, did you?
yeah, I was just gonna say, I
Sorry.
think Councilman,
We
That's-
quickly talked about the charter, I don't know, I'll leave that to Robert.
Yeah, can we table that till next year?
table,
number 3, Barbie.
Three.
Number 3.
okay.
Does that mess with the timeframe, Christine?
We should be good.
Our regular meetings.
In April,
2
April,
weeks.
April 10th?
It's a Wednesday, just so everybody knows, it's not Tuesday.
You know, I was gonna say, I have a really quick recommendation in between now and then, if we're waiting for Nick. I don't know if we should leave it on there or not, but, let's just leave it.
Which one?
Leave it or table it?
Sorry, the charter amendment. I was just thinking if we're gonna wait, maybe we should reach out to citizens, but we can talk about that later. And let's keep it simple, just saying,
So we table,
So
are
we're
we
gonna-
tabling it, or are we leaving it?
yeah, we'll just take it off.
I'm
Tabling it till
I'm
April.
Suggesting we table it to the
Okay.
regular
That's what he,
meeting.
okay.
Okay.
And then,
So we're basically talking about 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
hold on, we need to add the letter that we received this morning from the village attorney.
Okay.
Michelle, want to talk about that?
And what are we doing with this? Again, given that it was just provided,
General
like,
discussion,
seconds?
not any action, just discussion.
Well,
about-
if we're gonna do that, then I think we need to be talking about advertising for,
Well, that's,
well.
I think that's what we wanted to talk, like, how we're gonna fill that spot.
Is
I
that
understand.
open or closed?
I think
Open.
that's open. I would
Yeah,
think that would be
that's
open.
So would that be,
That would
someone else can
be.
do the math, but I'm guessing it's somewhere new item number 8 or 9.
You do it, Robert, what number is it gonna be?
Let's
You
see.
do it.
11 minus
7,
4.
8. 8.
8.
It'll be 8.
It'll be 9, I think.
8, I think.
Oh, yeah, but that's right, we took
For-
off the charter, so yeah, that's right.
Christina, did you want to table number 2?
I already talked about that.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Legal village, okay.
And also in that same packet where the attorney's resignation is also the, her opinion on the roads.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
all in one
I,
packet there.
that's why I was asking, because if it's about filling the spot, that's one item. What is the item? Did we say? what the
Well,
item
number,
is?
I wrote it down as legal services.
I just said village,
Yeah,
film village
attorney
attorneys.
issues is what I have,
What?
just in general. I just have it as attorney issues, but I don't think we can get into specific to your point, Mary, that we just got the information on the, what she had researched, but
Right.
also
Well, I know,
what 4 other attorneys.
But that's number
have
2.
Should we
researched.
just call it attorney resignation
Yeah.
slash
I-
legal services?
I think that's fine.
You okay with that, Barb?
I'm good with that.
And that's
Slide, a
number 8?
resignation slash what?
Legal
Services?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, since we already have a number 9, should we just leave it there? Or old number 9?
Let's separate them out, if that's, well, again,
Well, one,
let's
two,
separate them out.
We
for
can
now.
talk about it at the
3,
same time, but if
4,
we separate them out, we have something
6,
to look at if we go back.
Okay, that'll be item number 8.
Okay.
All right, we good?
Did there, anything, any other changes?
No, I think that's
Okay.
it.
So, need a motion.
Need a motion to amend the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Real quick, just a note of housekeeping. I do have a sick one at home, so I may be looking at my phone to confirm that everything is okay at home.
And I got a hard stop at 2 because I got.
Okay.
I'm on the same boat as Joe. That's when my phone's on, so.
All right, so we are moving presentation AMT road resurface. So it's first up on the agenda.
So, and before Philip starts, we've had some conversation about the last meeting and kind of the intent of the resurfacing contract is to tie up the roads, make them nice and smooth, make sure they tie into the curb and gutter and the asphalt, nice, crisp, clean, precise. And so that's kind of the intent of his instruction. I've also given him some information. The number one complaint that we had in this last go-round was the variance from the curb and the gutter to the asphalt. Number two concern was the manholes, I think in Weddington Chase, Philip, not mistaken, how they were basically outlined in concrete and it just looks bad. So those are still within DOT standards. We think we found a way to address those issues. I'll let him start, and then we've kind of created a flow chart that kind of explains the way the standards work. So if we get to the point where we need to illustrate it better, we'll pass this out, but I'll go ahead and let you start, Philip.
Can I just say, wouldn't it be easier, since it's a work session, to have them join the table so that we're not always kind of cranking and...
Sure.
You guys want to sit up here? I'll slide over.
I will like to get over.
Just my phone.
Yes. Hi there, how are you?
Hey there. I'm not sure, Rohit, was there some of these typical, were there copies of
I
it?
got him.
Okay.
See them.
And these are just preliminary drafts. They still need to be tweaked and touched up some. But in an effort to address what Christina talked about there in Canterfield with the buildup of the asphalt at the gutter. And I'll just start by saying DOT, you know, historically, DOT's not used to having other towns resurfacing maps in their contracts. So that's sort of atypical.
They're not that used to having what, sorry?
DOT's not used to having other villages' standards within their contracts.
Oh,
They're used to going by their own standards,
I see,
basically.
okay.
So, you know, like I was in that job for approximately 17 years, and we might have done it, seems like we had some town of Midland roads that we resurfaced as part of our package. So it's just not something they're used to dealing with. Usually when that happens, you have a municipal agreement, you know, and the people out in the field may not be aware of all those documents. And I just say that to just, you know, give you a little background, but that's why I think it's good to add these proposed typicals. So, you know, the underlying specifications will still be DOT, but we will reference these typical sections as an exception to that in your agreement with the state.
Can you, I guess, let me back out just a little bit and kind of give y'all a higher level. Pass that around.
Oh, we need the flow chart now.
So we're being expected to make a decision though today, correct?
No.
We're not?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, but this is really easy. So just on adding some more information to our standards manual, Councilmember Scoot. So if y'all look at this first page that says resurfacing design with NCDOT projects, the very first thing is basically showing y'all that our agreement with DOT is what our hands are held to as far as specs are concerned for what the final product looks like, basically. And those DOT policies can consist of their standards, their construction manual, their quality management system, And so going by that, that is pretty much what we're bound to in that agreement with our roads. If you flip over the next page, this is your typical roadway design standards. So like if Councilmember Epps were constructing roads in his development, this is what he would be bound to. The ordinance, number one, the ordinance specifies that you have to follow the village's standard manual. The standard manual says that if it's not listed herein as anything different, then you go by DOT standards. So essentially, if there's not a call out for specific typicals like he's passed around, then you go by DOT standards. And this typical that he's passed around, which basically says nice, clean, pretty precise roads, is not in our standards or in DOT standards.
So, but this is new roads, this is resurfacing? Is that what I'm saying? Typical roadway design would be.
New roads, yeah.
construction. This is.
Resurfacing.
And what we're really talking about today is resurfacing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to get y'all a bigger picture so you understood.
Okay.
But anywhere, but nowhere there's. this
Nowhere there is that, correct. So if I decided to build a subdivision today and I went and put new roads in, there's nowhere in here that references this standard specifically, either in our ordinances, our specs manual, or DOT's.
Okay,
So
got it.
what is reference? Because we have a whole road standard manual.
Yes, we do, and I actually have a copy of that.
But not
It does
this.
not call out the tie-in to the curb and gutter.
Interesting.
Here's the, let me pass this down.
I'm gonna flip to
That's
the
a miss
exact
then.
page where it should be, but it isn't.
But it's not. That's
Yeah.
So what Philip is actually proposing
because we add this.
is we add this to our standards manual, and then we add a provision to our agreement with DOT that says this is what has to take place.
Okay.
On resurfacing.
Yes,
What's the
And
official
new?
title of this? I
And
just want to find
We should do it new too.
yes,
Okay.
both.
Okay.
both.
New,
would have
new
its
two.
own- Yeah, new would have its own detail showing the curb and gutter.
But she said that new doesn't have it now.
So if you look at the flow chart that I just sent
Right.
around, at the bottom it says needed. On both sides, it tells you exactly what we need to do to fix this problem for both new streets and resurfacing streets.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
We also have a few changes that we noticed when we were looking through things. The trinicated domes for the ADA compliance is not,
Page number.
I don't even know
But
if
it
ADA.
has
so we need to change that as well.
So-
Okay, what's the standard?
So, Philip, do you think that DOT is gonna have a problem with us adding this in here?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I mean, it's not a slam dunk yet, but
okay. But you feel good about it? Okay.
I'm gonna ask, can you just repeat that? Because I was just trying to
Yeah.
get
Oh, I-
up to speed. What was
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry. I asked if Philip thought that DOT would be okay with us adding this in as our standards and with the process, and he said it's not a slam dunk, but he feels good about it.
Got it.
As long as we're just putting like one or two things in there and not saying like our complete specs manual, they shouldn't have any
Changes.
issues
Okay.
with it. Now, if we give them that 100-page document and said y'all have to comply with this, then they may say, okay, we'll do it, but it's gonna cost you
A lot more.
whatever.
Okay.
Is that because our 200.1 has that green zone? What?
No, it's just because it doesn't have this call out, these call outs in this manhole.
Oh, just the circles.
Yes.
And then in the
And these
specifications,
notes.
Okay.
and then in the specifications manual, it lists nowhere any of that stuff. In the specifications language, it does not list that. The only thing it says is all materials shall conform with the latest edition of NCDOT standard and specifications roads manual.
Okay.
And then
So
the
just add
standards,
that.
the standards and specifications manual with DOT is literally 900 pages. And then it references all kinds of stuff in there, their construction manual, their QMS manual, so it's
And it's not
all
in there?
kinds of stuff.
And it's not in there? It's not in their manual?
I looked, I couldn't find it. Rohit looked, he couldn't find
That's
it. But
crazy, right?
of 900 pages plus more, it could be in there somewhere, we just didn't see it.
All right. So we just need to add it to ours.
yeah, and just keep in mind, like, you know, when you actually get out in the field, you know, there's always variances with the typicals, so you might not get that 100% perfect tie in 100% of places.
Right.
You know, there's gonna be variances, and I think the typical shows 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch
Okay.
would be the target.
Okay.
So B2 and B3,
Where are you at,
I'm
Councilman?
on
Here.
the
Okay.
detail.
Yeah, that's, we could actually take, you know, we're gonna use one of your existing typical sections and just include these with it. This is just for,
But is that a tolerance range, profile mill existing asphalt 0 to 1.25?
You can change that or whatever you need.
yeah, it's just whatever it needs in the field. it's gonna be 0 to, if you're putting 1.5 inches, it'll be probably 0 to 1.5 inches. You're putting an inch, 0 to an inch.
So that's the actual asphalt application, but are they given a tolerance on how far off it could be from this detail? Is there any latitude on, right now it's flush, which is ideal, right? That the new asphalt is flush with the curb.
So if it was existing, built up 2 inches, they would have to mill the 2 inches plus, if they're putting 1.5 inches, they'd have to mill 3.5 inches to nothing.
Okay, so we're not giving them a tolerance, we're saying it needs to be flush with the curb.
Right. Well, the tolerance above the curb is this 1/8 to 1/4.
There it is, okay, that was my question.
Yes.
All right.
But you had mentioned earlier, a lot of times they make the call while they're out there. I mean, they're gonna determine, do they do that on site and say, do we really need to mill this and stuff? I mean, again, my big concern, just from a layman's standpoint, we look at this.
Sorry, you said one, how did you said that they said, what do you mean?
Well, we were
they said?
talking earlier just because we didn't think the meeting was gonna happen, so I asked about the milling specifically, just for my own thought process, and you mentioned about, you had talked about how it could possibly be it's a subcontractor, I assume.
And that's-
they're on site and they look at it and say, well, we really don't, they kind of make the call on their own out there.
Right. And I think, going forward, that we would need to be probably a little bit more involved when we know they're getting ready to pave, so we're involved with that decision.
Well,
And make sure that Marvin gets what you want to get.
and that's what I asked for last meeting is, if we're paying anything at all, supervision over this process would be ideal. You guys can get involved in that.
One
Because-
thing you'll need to keep in mind on this, those tolerances are ideal, but when you've got a curb and gutter section, when they go out there and set up the pave, they're gonna run automatics, and they're gonna run off the center line. These curbs aren't perfect.
Right.
So you don't wanna sacrifice the ride, so you don't have a 1/2 inch lip over here for 10 feet. In other words, if you take and try to follow that curve, you're sacrificing the ride of the road.
That makes perfect sense.
So
I think
that's
what
why
we
it's-
run into mechanical was 2 inches here and there, and it
Right.
was excessive.
Yeah.
So we're not, we're reasonable people, and we get that, but when you're talking about 2 inches over a curb, and it goes on for, and I haven't been out there to measure, I just know what I'm told.
I rarely do this. In fact, I can't remember the last time I've ever done this in the 12 years I've been here. But I can tell you that this actually has affected me personally. The other day, my son likes to ride his bike, and for the first time ever, he hit one of those curves because it was above grade, and he ended up flipping over his bike and chipping his tooth.
Oh, wow.
So this does matter in the end. And the fact that we're paying this kind of money and we're then, we expect we're getting a certain standard and we're not, in the end can
Right.
actually impact people.
Right. Sure.
And so you're gonna sense my frustration just because there's a lot of aspects of this whole road issue that I'm not 100% clear on. So I'll just ask for your forgiveness in advance of that.
And curb does move, but generally speaking, if I'm not sure what's in our contract, if there's a piece of curb that's cracked and sunk, that's gotta be repaired at some point, either before or after, right?
Right.
So ideally, it'd be repaired before, and then, whether it's before or after, it would eventually meet our tolerance.
Right.
I don't think
That's
curbs
like
are in
a-
the contract.
No, but if you have a sunken piece of curb, what generally happens, like before DOT takes over a road, somebody's going out and marking curbs, they're marking drain basins.
Right.
They're checking all that stuff before they can sign off on it. And if should be the same with this, if there's a subcontractor coming out there and there's a piece of curb that's been underwashed and it's sunk, I'm assuming he's not gonna pay up to it and have a 4-inch lip.
Yeah, I'm not talking about failures, I'm just talking about variance. And on the new builds, we go out and mark the curb prior to the final lip, and they replace all the curb that's damaged before they come out and put the wear surface down, so you do get one.
Hang on, can you say that one more time? Because my understanding is we didn't have any curb and gutter in our.
He's talking about new, that was.
I'm talking about-
Oh, okay. So, just so I'm clear, when we do, like, we're kicking off this project now, no one has gone by and looked at any of the curb and gutter at all? Is that accurate?
For,
For the roads that we're doing now? That we're getting ready to do?
I mean, curb and gutter's not in our contract,
Right.
right?
I just want to be clear.
So nobody's looking
Okay.
at it. Robert, when you said somebody fixes it, you don't mean in our contract, because I don't think anybody's fixing the curbs. Is that what you're asking?
That's exactly what I'm
Okay.
asking. I just want to be clear that we're not
Because
addressing.
you said yes, but I don't think that, I think you just meant like, yes, like theoretically that would get fixed, but not in our contract.
Correct.
Is that what you're
May not be in
asking?
our contract, but if we know of a curb that's failed and we don't fix it and then we create a lip because we're running a consistent line across a 10-foot plane, someone's got to step up and fix that.
Well,
But
that
currently
needs to
that's,
be
yeah, that's not in our
us.
process.
Right.
Right?
Nobody's fixing it to my knowledge.
It's not in our contract, but it brings up a point.
like
No,
I think
yeah,
had
no, I
that in
agree.
Canterfield, hopefully we would have caught it beforehand and had that addressed before the
Well,
paving.
okay,
people
so-
get
I'm
started.
assuming it'd be some sort of change order and
Well,
whatever we
yeah,
pay for
yeah.
or the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need to get a
pays for it, I don't
process
know.
in place for that. If we're not currently doing that, we need a process for
But
that.
there's usually concrete items in those kind of contracts, so, you know, if we wanted the contractor to do it, that should be,
Okay.
it should be okay.
Okay.
But I guess.
Who's
the-
telling us that?
I guess, are we doing an inspection, to his point, it needs to be looked at, are we actually coming out and doing an inspection to see if we need to address any of it at the same time or
Well,
before?
I mean, when we're out scoping the job, you know, for the paving, we should pick up on, if it's something that obvious, we would
Okay.
pick up on
So
it.
you guys, so
So-
we don't need to necessarily go out and do it. You guys will look at it.
But for Firethorn, when I look at the roads, the only markings I see are on the road, nothing to do. And I'm assuming there's gotta be some curbs that have either failed or need attention, but there's no markings on that and we haven't.
You know,
I mean, is
typically,
that your job then, or are you saying that you guys should probably do a drive-by and look at the curbs or?
yeah, unless it's, like I say, unless it's really obvious, typically, we wouldn't repair curb and gutter in the resurfacing contract. You know, Raleigh would probably actually say, well, the curb and gutter, you need to spend maintenance dollars to fix that. And we're spending a different bucket of money to do the resurfacing. So they get hung up sometimes about which pot of money you're spending. So typically, we would repair the curb out of a separate,
After they do the,
before or after, either way.
wouldn't it be
hopefully
better
before.
before though?
So when you
Yeah.
say bucket, are you talking POW bill money?
Well, just
I
different,
mean,
like you got resurfacing dollars, maintenance dollars.
Can you
Okay.
use POW bill for curb and gutter? You can,
I think so.
You can use it,
yeah.
but like what Kim was alluding to, it's, the bucket is POW and negotiation, or what do we call that? When they're in contract, when they're sharing, when they help us out, like in Weddington Chase.
Oh, the team.
Teaming's the word I was reaching for.
Not familiar with that.
Okay, so,
And the only
so
reason
different
is-
bucket for the curbs.
That's another question I've got.
And the only reason it comes up is when he was talking about curb, and he clarified, and Mike clarified, but in the instance that you do have a failed curb that's missed,
We need to
and
fix
that
it.
machine's coming straight across, what used to be a dip that no one really noticed, now all of a sudden becomes a trip hazard. So the curb either gets caught ahead of time and is addressed under a separate contract or maintenance or whatever, or it's gonna stand out after it's been repaid.
So we
Or
should
someone's
do it
gonna
before.
complain about it, and then it needs fixed, which it can be fixed after, it's not ideal, but it can be.
I was gonna say, it seems to me it would be easier to fix beforehand.
So, and I think, Philip, I think this board is moving away from the 4-year plan and more towards an 8-10-year plan at some point. And possibly, I don't know, possibly changing around this index,
Like, who's beeping?
changing around this, not the index, but the flow of the index. Do you think that it would be advisable at some point to maybe add a sidewalk, curb and gutter inventory in with this and maybe do it in conjunction with the resurfacing? I don't know if I'm asking that question right, but.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I
You're
mean, that's
assessing not
gonna
just
not
for-
quite match DOT, you know, if we're trying to include it with DOT, I'm not sure how they feel about that.
Okay.
I'm having a lot of trouble with a lot of issues. I'm gonna just stay away from my list, but here's what I'm trying to understand in some ways. it feels like we're sort of being confined to some degree by what NCDOT considers regular service, not regular service, regular inspection, not regular inspection, that kind of thing. I understand that that's because we've obviously contracted through them. On the other hand, I feel like the purpose of taking on these roads was the idea, again, this isn't even me, just what I heard, was the idea of offering a service, right, to our local residents and being sure that we could improve upon what we were receiving from NCDOT. And then even going one past that and perhaps even improving property values in Marvin because we tend to take better care of our roads. So, laying that out there, this might not seem related, but it is for me. It feels like one of the main reasons we continue to stay connected to NCDOT is because of the teaming. Because they have, right? They have...
Two reasons, teaming
Uh-huh.
and their price structure.
Okay, those two things.
When you say teaming, are you saying cost sharing basically?
Yes,
Yes.
cost sharing. That's
what
what you were thinking of too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Cost sharing.
Like
Yeah,
what they were doing in Wake and Chase.
It's in those charts, it's called teaming.
Okay.
I just used the jargon that was there, but that's what we're talking about, the same thing. So are we still teaming with or cost sharing with NCDOT over some of these roads? We are.
All of them, right? Like a big chunk.
And it goes per,
Correct.
it's based on the roads that were, how they're listed, which one needs to be done first. They just, okay, we're gonna take this section based on what we say, we're gonna do 3 miles this year, and those 3 miles are gonna be this thing, and then we go into that.
My understanding is that this was done by AMT back in early 2017. And what they did was they were given a dollar amount, $300,000. Y'all stick within this dollar amount. Y'all look at DOT's resurfacing plan. Y'all try to combine them together so that we're staying under 300,000 and killing more common spaces together instead of doing one road here, one road here, one road here. So we're keeping them more uniform. Philip, is that correct?
Yeah, repeat, I was gonna ask you to repeat it to make sure I grasped that. I don't know, by the way, whether it's,
Yeah, do you want me to repeat it?
I don't know. If you think he's gonna be able to explain it better, then that's fine.
My understanding, when y'all came up with this, y'all were told 300,000, don't exceed it every year.
For the village.
Look at what DOT's doing, try to merge them together so that we're killing more neighborhoods in 1 year, as opposed to a little bit of this neighborhood, a little bit of that
And
neighborhood.
doing it on our own.
And we would generate economies of scale savings because we would piggyback off of DOT's hundreds of mile resurfacing within Union County.
Yep.
So we're getting a
Within Union
lower.
County, okay.
And
That's-
I'm using that as general. I don't know if it's Union County or Weddington. I don't know who they're. I don't know what's on the main overall contract, but
Okay.
we're a small portion of it basically.
So are we teaming over roads in Marvin with NCDOT? Or, and I feel like that's important because I thought we were accepting the roads and maybe that's where I'm a little bit confused. Like, are they paying for roads and putting money towards roads that we're accepting? And is that, and that's part of what they're saying, we're just gonna help you catch up and bring those roads up to a certain standard?
Because we have to start bringing them in, because we have to start bringing the roads in, because we're taking the POW bill funds. So that's why we have to start bringing them in, and we're not gonna bring them in until they're up to
I'm sorry.
standard. So
I
I
meant
feel like
like-
DOT's helping us get them up to
That's what
standard.
they're doing.
Would that help?
Yes, I just wanna make sure that I understand why we're so tied to these NCDOT standards.
So if you look at the index that I just passed around, and Philip, you can interject my comments if you need to. There's a cost over to the far right. That's the total cost of the project.
Which,
For-
where
for-
are you looking?
The very far right.
Okay, that's our cost?
No.
Total
That's
cost.
the total cost. So where you don't see a cost
Am I missing?
is where DOT would be paying for those.
Right, so like up top, so the 4-year road plan
Let me follow where you guys are.
So like, look at 2019 on the second page,
Here.
and it says 300.
Mary, like flip, okay, so flip page, flip it up. Oh, no, flip, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Flip it up.
yep.
So
got it.
here,
Okay.
up here,
Uh-huh.
right, is that where you're looking up here?
Yeah.
In the green? So all the way to the right is the total cost, like for those roads.
So Philip, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the total numbers that you see here are our cost. Where you don't see a cost is where DOT is picking up that tab.
Correct.
So these white spaces?
Is DOT.
NCDOT's.
So we're, so
Thank you for
Providence
explaining
Estates, DOT's doing 100% of. Providence Ridge, we're chipping in 17 389 and 6833.
Robert's estate.
Firethorn, we're paying for all of it.
Correct.
Sorry. Yeah. Joe, I thought Firethorn was done just recently when we started talking about Powellville.
Done? What do you mean?
When we originally went into Powellville, you mentioned how you guys had to bring,
That was
Fire.
7, 8 years ago. So what happened was, the state would not take them over until the community brought them up to the state
that it
standards.
used to be private.
No, they were always deeded to be public roads. However, you know, as developers
Oh, they were
developed,
not
they were never, manholes had to be replaced, but that was all on, since the developer was no longer around, the community took that on and brought it up to the state standards, which goes back to, if we're gonna take over roads from the state, then we should, by their own, what they did with, as a microcosm to our community, we're asking for the same thing. Bring them up to your own standards before we inherit them, because I just, that's where I get concerned about, we're inheriting these roads. And if the right work isn't being done, then what are we inheriting? Are we inheriting a 5-year road? Or are we inheriting a 20-year road, a 10-year road? I mean, you know, we're taking it on and going forward in perpetuity, so, I mean,
But what Councilman Epps is asking about is, and I'll tell you, I heard the same thing this week, was, and just in general, was that, for the record, it's, former Councilman Salome said to me that Firethorn had all been, that up until recently, those roads had not been on the list because they had already been, except for two, I think Bearwood Court and Seminole, I think, that all the other roads had been paved by the residents like in 2014. And so that those roads didn't necessarily need to be redone. And I said, I don't know anything about that, but that's the kind of stuff that.
all we
comes
did
out
was
here.
bring it up to the state standards, and then it was turned over to our engineers, and they listed it, and why this got to where it is completely, was up to our engineers to determine which roads were next and how we were gonna do it.
So did you guys pick Firethorn?
We did.
Is it that there's no teaming with DOT?
I think, I don't know if this is,
I can see Providence Estates. There's a 0 here. I don't know what a 0 means, but there's a 15.
I was thinking I got a little bit of patching dollars, some of the lower rated roads. And that should be enumerated in the municipal agreement where it lists the cost sharing for this current contract. This might be dated, this was
I know
done,
we
like,
already did,
this was dated a little bit prior to the actual negotiation.
Weddington Chase and Oak How much did we
I'll go back to numbers to
I don't know.
But I think there
I
is,
didn't compare them to the original.
there is some minor cost sharing in Firethorn, the best of my.
There is, it looks like, fit 63,000 and 11, I'm trying to look at this exhibit and it's a little bit hard to read, but 63 and
6,300.
1,000.
So they're doing all of Beechwood. Their DOT is doing Beechwood, even though they're 94s
Yeah,
and 96s.
Yeah, they're not that good.
I would think a 94 or 96 would be good. Out of 100?
Yeah, that's what
I mean,
I know not go anywhere with this. I'm
No,
just
no.
trying to figure out these numbers.
Yeah. This is what I understood from when we started, and if I'm wrong, then somebody tell me, because this is how I kind of explain it to people. I'm gonna stumble my way through this. Is that when we did Oak Brook and Weddington Chase and Canterfield, some of those roads were worse than other roads, and so what we did was, or what DOT and Marvin and you guys all decided was that we would take roads that were worse off because it was going to cost more to get those up to standard, but we were going to team up with roads that weren't as bad and able to kind of get more together. So instead of doing really bad roads and having to spend more on those, we would take some really bad roads and some roads that weren't as bad just we wouldn't have to spend as much to do it to get those up. Is that right? Sort of?
Yeah, and our strategy with subdivisions has always been, if possible, we like to do the subdivision as a whole if we can.
Right.
Just because of the truck loading. You know, we've had issues in the past. We go in and pave a subdivision and we're tearing up about as much as we're fixing sometimes because the trucks are just pumping.
Yeah.
Just because they're not built, some cases, maybe like they should have been, or the
Right.
subgrade's poor. So I just hate to like go in and pave the main road and then come back
Sure.
a few years later and do the
Side roads.
side roads, and I'm driving over, I'm tearing up the road I just paved 2 years before.
We agree to that the whole neighborhoods would be done, even though some of the roads in that neighborhood may not really need the attention, that it's just all gonna be done.
We didn't agree that we do the whole neighborhood. We left it up to them.
I thought we did.
No, we were told that there'd be instances where we might just do a road or two. But we wanted A&T to tell us.
Yeah, which I feel like they've done so far.
Well,
That was, oh, go ahead.
no, it's okay.
But that's our philosophy. Now, like I say, in
Well,
all
no,
cases,
no,
it might.
before we move on, I
Okay.
need to, I understand all that, but
Okay.
here's where I'm getting a little frustrated, is I'm now, the policy that, for the longest time, I was told we didn't have a road acceptance policy. That's what I was told right up until yesterday, when, like I said, like Indiana Jones, I went going through all the meeting minutes, found a policy number, only thank you Barbie for getting it to me this morning. And not only is there a road policy for roads, which I haven't even been able to get through completely, but there are charts attached to that road acceptance policy that put out a schedule, year 2017, year 2018, year 2019, year 2020. So to Robert's point, and what I'm trying to understand, because let me just say, the idea, and you all know me, I think by now at least this, I feel like the most transparent and responsible thing that a government should do is set up independent review, set up a policy so that when people come in and out of the doors and ask, well, why isn't my road being done? Or why isn't my road being done? You can say, we don't know, the engineers devise a plan, here is the policy, and we're 2 steps back from that. But what I'm seeing was passed, and what I'm seeing on our charts are completely different. And so what I don't understand is if we did now, I'm finding out, we did accept a policy, and we did adopt one, why then are the roads that are being chosen seeming so off course with what the policy is? I don't understand that.
Do you have?
Yeah, and she to her defense, she did ask me that. I was not aware of any policy. I actually have this big policy manual here that has all of our policies in there. It was not in there. I was completely unaware we had this policy. I think it was approved in 2016.
I gave Joe my copy.
So
A few minutes
Let me
ago.
see it.
it is, the roads that are in there are different from
That's it.
what's been proposed
one?
in the plan that passed around.
Is there only one page?
This is the actual years.
And
that
then
she's
there's,
mentioned.
yeah, with the spreadsheets attached to Kim, that's the part that threw me out.
For 2019, it's Innisbrook and Marvin Creek. it
But
looks
you
like.
read this, right, Joe?
What's that?
You read this policy?
Not the whole policy,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I didn't get this policy before
We just
It's
got here.
this.
And I just want to point out, we talked about
that
doing
and
an
this
entire
chart.
subdivision.
What's that?
This and this
Marvin
chart.
Creek is spread out 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Like I just, and I don't mind,
It's
it's just
really-
like, how do
That's 3
you, I
years.
just don't know how
It's
you
a
explain it.
big
to people.
subdivision, so, I mean,
Yeah.
if you wanna put the money all at one time to do it, but that would blow your 300,000.
Well, I'm just saying, the blanket comment that we said we do them all at the same time doesn't exactly apply to across the board.
When was this policy accepted?
2016. I think,
May of
I
I think it
2016.
says November 28th, 2016.
But I'll tell
I mean,
you,
September 28th,
the way I
2016.
found it right, because even though it's dated 2016, I happened to come across it reading the 2017 meeting minutes in May.
Yes.
Okay.
Because someone, oh right, somebody,
Oh, this is the rest.
someone
I
had
was like, this isn't
highlighted
everything.
just these for me, and they said, well, where did these come from? And they said from the May 18th meeting, and I followed the trail, and
So
read the
it's just
minutes, it was like, well, what are these? And then
It's just
it led to
one
this
right
policy.
there.
Wait, is this different than this?
Right, they're just
No,
kind of
it's just
all
not on
red.
the same page. It just,
Okay, but
it
they
goes
are
like
saying
this.
It's like 2 pages. It's like 4 pages
Oh,
together.
oh, okay,
Yeah, I don't know
but
that-
this is still not
It's
all the
not
roads
subdivision.
in
Yeah, it's not.
Marvin.
So-
But it's just one road.
So see, this is, now, this is right out
Oh,
of the
Jiminy
packet.
Christmas.
'Cause there's an accepted
Can I say this?
page, yeah, and a not accepted.
And I have
So I
never
was
seen
trying
it.
my best to go back to the
Oh,
minutes,
no,
to
it
go,
is
what
the
does that
same,
mean?
okay. Oh, it's just still, yours is just blown up. Okay, this is just littler. So, but this isn't all the roads in Marvin, right?
I don't see Firethorn on there anywhere.
Because I mean, this is because oh no, wait, this
I wish
is
I
different than
I don't know, that's the whole
this.
point, I have no clue what
Yeah,
anything
I don't
is.
even, did
But-
y'all make that AMT? Did you guys make this?
I've never seen it,
You've never seen it?
I
So
mean, I
how
didn't
come
do
it's in the road acceptance policy?
I don't know.
I have no
I
clue.
wasn't here
but
then.
it does sort of
so.
look like something we would have done.
Can I see one of them?
Yeah, I mean, they're
Pretty
kind of the
far,
same, but this can't be. I mean, this isn't all the roads in Marvin, and wasn't like it a 20-year
That's
plan,
what
so we can't get.
I
I
would
don't
remember.
understand.
That says
Yeah.
5
That's a
years.
I
5-year
know, but
plan.
every time I heard you guys talking about it before I got in, it was like a 20-year plan. So
Now you know why I felt like Indiana Jones, because I was going back and saying, well, where did 5-year come from? I thought it was 10-year like you, I kept hearing.
Like, yeah.
right? And I was like, well, okay, forget what I hear, let's go to the policy, and then it was like, it's not
so
a
is the policy a
I was like,
5-year
what?
policy?
I haven't even gotten. a
It
chance
says
to
it's
read it all
reviewed
through.
annually in July, I think.
Submit a 5-year road acceptance plan.
It was originally a 20-year policy.
Right, that's what I thought.
Right.
But this says 5. So is this in a?
Somewhere
looks
along
to-
the lines in 2017, or excuse me,
16.
yeah, last year and now, it changed it, but it was never talked about in the council meeting.
This is the
Just
only
change.
thing I think I've been able to figure out, is that so initially, this is what I believe, that they took
Thank you.
these roads, right, this AMT survey, they did all the roads in Marvin, and then they narrowed it down to a 5-year, from what are the minutes, this is the best I can gather. They narrowed it down to, okay, out of all the roads that were surveyed, what do we want to do in the next 5 years, right? Because you don't want to base a 20-year plan on a survey that's done 15 years ago. So what I believe happened, I'm guessing, is that that's how you got, where's that thing I just?
This one.
Yeah, the
This?
accepted one, you know,
Oh.
the one with the scribble on it?
No, they're.
Oh, I have it, it's right here. So I think what they did is they took the survey of all the roads. they-
And pared it
they-
down.
Right, they pared it down to a 5-year program.
But we don't know who did this. Because AMT, you're saying, Philip, you're saying you guys.
I don't know either.
But what I'm hearing is,
Christina, do you know who did this?
I have no clue.
Except that it's in the policy,
Barbie,
that's
do you
what's
know who
weird.
did this?
That's the first I've seen it this
The
morning.
only thing I can think of is probably whoever was here. I know Melody was
The
the clerk at the
administrator,
time,
yeah.
and the administrator who developed those, because this report came out of a meeting
2016,
Um,
right.
when Robin Stuber was the administrator.
I remember this.
And this
listening
is
to it.
also something that, based on when they did the roads for Canterfield Creek, Weddington Chase, and what was the Oakwood?
Oakbrook.
Was
Yes.
it Oakbrook?
Oakbrook.
Okay.
Yes, that's-
So this came out of that discussion. They didn't have clear numbers, and when the bid was not accepted, they came back with that astronomical number. There was only one bid. They asked AMT to develop some whatever the plan criteria for all of the roads in
So
Marvin.
you know what's,
Okay.
you
And
know
that's
what's going
what
on
this
now?
is from.
Here's what's happened. Because of the changeover in staff, this is what I'm betting. Miss Stuber went back to this, but to be honest, this was created back in 2016, right? But when she went to figure out, oh, we need to create a road contract, she didn't know that this policy was in effect and had been adopted, right? They knew. So she went to the only thing she probably had on hand, which was this. And she went to the engineer and she said, okay, let's redo
Feels not
something,
on this.
not knowing that there was already a policy in place. And so now we've got two different things, it seems like, going on at the same
That's your
time.
copy.
That's what I'm guessing.
just a comment for me, what I'm hearing, like that document, that other document was a road acceptance plan,
Yeah, not a.
not a road paving plan.
Wouldn't they be the same though at this point, because of the NCDOT taming?
If I remember right, Philip, when John was here, he said you need to take something to get, kind of like start out the tip jar. You gotta, or prime the pump. You gotta prime the pump with something. And
I
I
like the
thought
tip
that's
jar.
how we ended up with Canterville, because I don't remember Canterville ever being
Mhm.
scored out, but we ended up with Canterville as the first one. And I thought that was to prime the pump. And we were taking over some roads to show DOT we were serious.
Mhm.
Is that, you weren't here at the time, but
Right.
is that what you would think happened?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds,
Let me
That's
just
what happened.
interject. I did go back and find emails, though, that Sean Underwood, when they were all exploring this, because I was wondering that too, well then how the heck did Canterfield end up on this? I have no clue. And apparently, according to the email at least I have, John Underwood said that it was a good middle of the road subdivision where they could do the whole subdivision and kind of feel it out. So we were the guinea pig for this after all. But I'll be honest, I don't really like that either. I would have preferred that we are arm's length, that some kind of technical, scientific policy had been invoked, and that's kind of what we proceeded with. So, because I had the same question, I was looking at this and thinking, well, how the heck did, Canterfield get up to above?
Because they're not even on
Rollins
five.
Ridge?
They're not even on that 5-year acceptance paper.
No.
Canterfield's not on there at all.
No, not at all.
But I think
So-
to Robert's point, that's what they were trying to do, saying that we were, in good faith, we were serious about taking these roads over. That was one of the ones that came up for, however it came up, but then the other one was thing, but it was key that the plan was designed to, once they go into a
Change the
neighborhood,
policy,
to
right?
your point earlier, they're not gonna just do part of it, they wanna do all of it, even though all of the whole neighborhood doesn't need necessarily.
yeah, these, just to be clear, this 4-year, the Yalla, this was done, when y'all was talking about the bond issue. What if we get bonds and we want to pave all the roads? So this, we generated some of these cost figures
Right.
and put that in.
When we were looking at bonds, yeah.
So we can
the
change our.
Same one we've been looking at.
So,
The
yeah. So,
second page.
Our original goal was to do some 1 year, skip a year, do some another year, because we have 5
Right.
years to spend out.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just for that reason, but I think it was also to have time to evaluate, update if needed,
Right.
the scores, give staff time to breathe,
work out kinks.
work
Yeah.
out kinks.
Well, I think that was something you
That's a good
proposed,
plan.
right? Isn't that?
So that's where we've moved to. Instead of the 4-year plan, we've moved to the 8 or 10, kind of depending on.
And we've mentioned this several
Well, even
times.
when we had the 20, that was, I think, how we had it set up, was year on,
Okay.
year off.
And taking
And Rob
less.
will remember better than I do.
I don't, yeah. The only thing I'll say is, and to Joe's point, he did say, because it's been hard to get information, he did, at some point, I guess, the council did discuss the fact that if there was a road that was near the top of, like here, right, I don't know what it's called, the survey rating was under 50, that if it was just really, really bad, that you would take that one road and then you would do the whole subdivision because it was more convenient. But I gotta be honest with you, that seems a little weird to me, and let me tell you why.
Let me
Yeah.
comment, because I've heard it 3 or 4 times. When we have 20% of the roads that are really bad in the subdivision,
Mhm.
and they need to be addressed. And they may be roads that you're gonna have to access through the collector.
Right,
It doesn't mean if we've got a road scoring 50,
Mhm.
that we're gonna go in there and mill 1.5 inches, do some pretty heavy patching. And we've got a road over here scoring 84, that we're not gonna go over there and do minimal profile milling, very little patching, and 1.25 inches. So you're not doing the same treatment. I mean,
Throughout.
you've got roads that are in different conditions, and you don't have to throw a blanket over it and do the same treatment on
Okay.
all roads. If it's not as bad, it don't require the same treatment. So,
and that's what we're seeing in the contracts too, right? They're literally going road by road and providing a
And that's
criteria.
another chink in the system, because to Joe's point, when we get out of there, we're hoping for, is 10-year road reasonable, 15-year road?
For subdivision, I would,
I would want 20.
I thought we were going
I
for
thought
10,
We
20,
wanted
yeah.
20, but I heard that wasn't realistic. Is it?
15, I think's a good middle ground.
So if you got a road and it's and Providence Estates is a bad example because they actually all probably need done,
Yeah,
but
don't touch
Well,
that.
look at Firethorn. I'll say it.
So
Just because.
Firethorn.
So there's a 36, there's a 88, and there's a 7 or
Where-
0.07. Oh, that's a link. Sorry. Ha! Hold on, where's the score? There's an 88, a 50.
so like a 50 on Berwick.
Yep.
You know, Berwick is an isolated piece of road. It's a court.
What is it?
Why wouldn't you go
That's how long
in
it is.
and just
Oh, yeah.
do another subdivision nearby, Marvin's a small area. Why wouldn't you just do Berwick and leave the rest alone? Because I hate to think you're going in and adding a less than optimal application on top of an existing road, and we're not getting 15 years out of it just because we're in there. Does that make sense? I'd rather know we're milling and doing what we need to get another 15, 20 years out of it.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
well, yeah, the whole concept for when you resurface a road, is not, DOT probably did the worst first concept for a lot of years, but, the most economical way is to do it while the road is still in decent condition. Like DOT rates it, if it's below 60, it's poor. 60 to 80 is fair, above 80 is good. So really, you want to catch it in that fair to bottom of the good, so you don't have all the subgrade repairs. You're putting your money in the surface course, basically. So you can do, instead of having a $180, a mile, you can do it for $120 a mile,
Which makes sense if you're
$120,000.
got a 50 road and the rest are 80s to 90. And once you're getting into 90 to 100, I'm not that'd be like buying something on sale that you don't
Yeah.
need just because it's on sale.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That's the bad.
Is that
Yeah, that's bad.
wrong?
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Now, okay, so to that same point, I'm trying to understand again, and I'm actually answering my question before I asked it. Because I was gonna ask, what would an engineer recommend? Because what I couldn't understand is why we wouldn't just, if the council, it feels like, really wants to do subdivision by subdivision, if that's the case, I'm not saying that's the best way, then I was thinking, well, why aren't we just doing then the average? Like, which is what I worked out last night. I mean, you work out the average then, and you're going to Robert's point, not be going into a subdivision that has mostly 90 but a couple of 7s. Instead, more to what I think you're saying, Philip, is that you're trying to catch them when some of the roads are still okay and some of them are maybe really bad. But that's why the law of averages, to me, makes most sense. So anyway, I'm just saying,
But I mean, there's nothing, you can do it, you can do separate, there's no necessarily right or wrong. Your roads aren't bad enough, really, you have options. Most of your roads, after this first program, I think like over 60% of them are in the good range. So, y'all have options, you can.
Well, and I think, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I think that this council is moving, like I said, towards the 8 to 10 year plan, if not more. So I think what I'm hearing is we probably wanna change our policy and our process anyways. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would think so. I don't think this policy is applicable at this point.
If I could use the analogy, it's like you're saying is you bring a car into a shop and the brakes are bad, so the brakes got to be fixed. But on these other things, the wear and tear, you still get away with it, but we're doing preventative maintenance. Whether it needs to be done on an 80% road or not, probably not, but when you look at the big picture, when you're going into that neighborhood, and it may be easy from a staff standpoint too, that you're checking off, okay, Firethorn, you don't have to look up which road in Firethorn is officially Marvin. It's the neighborhood that's all done, and you're coming in there all at once with the trucks and doing everything that needs to be done. Some is preventative, some is absolutely needed. How it's decided, we're relying on you to kind of pick those. But I thought in the past, Robert, that we had talked about doing neighborhoods as a whole. That's why, even the same thing happened with, not Canterville, but
Weddington Chase.
Weddington Chase.
The reason Weddington Chase happened,
Go ahead.
we did discuss it, but where we landed, that I remember, was if you got a really bad road inside the neighborhood and the rest are 90s, we'll just do that one road. Because I remember saying, people are gonna have to understand sometimes, just because they want the whole neighborhood perfect, doesn't mean we can afford to make the whole neighborhood perfect. Now, Weddington Chase, DOT agreed to team with us and paid for a tremendous amount of it. I think we were going in there to do 2 roads in Weddington Chase, and DOT picked up the rest. They picked up to the tune of, I want to say $385,000. How I remember
thought it
this,
was
but
more
not
than
what I had
that.
for breakfast, I don't know. But they said they would pay a ridiculous amount of money, so we said,
Sure.
have at it.
Thank you.
And I think I even thanked AMT for it. That was because you all negotiated with them and made that happen. What we gotta be careful with is paying 100% for a subdivision that's in the 90s, just because one road is a 50.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I just want to go back to
Well,
what we
you
were
was
questioning
agreeing
about.
with me, I don't get that much.
Okay. Go
Okay,
ahead.
now go ahead.
Savor the
Let it soak
moment.
in.
And you wanted to,
Yeah.
no, that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that, and I agree with you from that standpoint, but I'm gonna go back and beat the same drum. That's why averaging makes sense, because when you've got a really low road, you're not, now when you're putting all the subdivisions together, and you're saying, what's the average road in this subdivision? What's the average road in this subdivision? When you've got a 17 and you've got a 90, you're gonna end up somewhere in the middle, and it's going to sort its way out with the other subdivisions. To me, it's
It's
mathematically.
definitely a good way
it
to
makes-
cross-check it.
I mean, yeah,
It
that,
may not be exactly how they do it, but it's definitely a good way to
well,
monitor it, right?
yeah, but I'm saying even as a village, if we truly are trying to stick with this idea that we want to try to do subdivisions at one time, you know, if that's how we want to break it down, that's not always going to work. I mean, Marvin Creek is huge, so you're not going to be able to do it all in one shot. My point is though, if you're taking the average subdivision in Marvin, whether it's Providence Ridge and then say Beechwood, and they're all in and around the 30, 40 house mark, and you're averaging those roads, they're going to fall into a program on their own, right? I don't know, I just feel like that takes care of all these outliers. It takes care of the outliers, bottom line.
One thing you could look at as far as your roads, if you've got, we're talking about averaging them, but if you've got 2 roads that's really bad, 5 roads that are still fair, that might be good, you can go in there and do repairs on those 2 roads without resurfacing.
And that's good
To
to
carry
know.
them to the point that everything needs resurfacing. So you can go in there and make repairs, do some patchwork, maybe do a little full depth patching, and extend its life to where they'll all come out at the same time.
Okay.
But,
That's what John, we drove around with John,
right,
Nick and I did once, and he was explaining that to us.
So that provision is still there as an aside, right? I mean, if
Is it in the policy?
Probably not. I mean,
You might want to make a note of that, if that's not in the policy, because that's huge.
You know, because I kept seeing Henry Nesbitt, I think it was, come up, right? Which is a road everyone uses, and it's rated really low. That to me seems like, well, you're gonna benefit the most people by improving that one road, right?
Yeah, and I didn't mean to stop.
Thank you.
You can go and finish. I didn't mean to stop.
but, I mean, that was,
where is he?
I know if you only got a couple of roads in there, I mean, that's the way to put a line on, to have the whole subdivision come to you at the same time. And the other thing, what Christine was talking about, or what we were talking about, the variance of the curb and the drainage, we had talked about
Oh, that's the,
doing a
this
curb.
piece, I'm like, well, I didn't even notice. Yeah, here, you can give
Why is
us
it not on mine there?
And she had asked about the drainage.
Here, I don't know if you want this one, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway.
That's your original.
I mean, there's a chance.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. I got it right here. Thank you.
These roads that are gonna come from DOT, there's a chance we might get ahead of it and go out and negotiate with them to make some repairs, just like we would require a developer to do. Some curb repairs.
All right, Mary,
maybe
what is
some,
this?
The
It's just
truncated
a
domes,
rough.
crosswalks.
I was averaging the roads to see
Oh,
what.
this is yours.
And maybe some
Yeah,
drainage
just to see what would
repairs,
happen if we
catch
did it that way.
basins,
Are you guys hearing all this?
Yeah, half.
I mean, there's a chance, you know, we can get out ahead of, you know, but it needs to be out ahead of the construction.
So, is that something DOT does, or we pay you all to do, much like the assessment you do
The assessment,
on the curb,
Yeah, we would do the assessment similar to this
and then you would negotiate
with
with
the
DOT?
DOT.
Did you hear what he's talking about on the curb assessment and getting ahead of it?
We'd have to negotiate that, well, we'd have to have them do it, and then we'd have to negotiate with NCDOT.
So then that would beg the question, what would something like that cost?
And we've talked about a sidewalk and curb and gutter assessment a couple months ago.
The sidewalks can be piled?
Yeah, we can give you a price on that.
But it sounds like, honestly, it sounds like
Did you
we're
put
heading
Innisbrook
towards,
last because it's mine?
What's that?
it sounds like we're heading towards revising the
I'm
policy.
kidding, I'm
That's
kidding,
right, I
I'm
forgot.
kidding, I'm joking. It's a joke.
Actually, the
Yeah.
village helped
Wait,
with
what now?
this
What were you saying?
It sounds like we're in the process of revising the policy and the plan in general, so if that's what I'm hearing, then I guess we need to get some direction from council to AMT for kind of how we're gonna go about changing this 4-year plan. Like, what are the parameters? Are we now gonna go with averages, or how are we gonna do that? So that staff can work with AMT to get some of those changes made. If that's what I'm hearing.
I think that might be a discussion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, my thing is, I'm not a road professional, and I would like you guys to make that decision, because I don't want people coming to me being like, why aren't, this way I can be like, AMT made that decision.
Exactly.
It's very scientific, they figured it out, so I really want,
And
I want you guys to do it. I don't.
Yeah, and I think that's
and
fine.
there was an email where, I don't know if y'all remember, someone from Heritage was like, hey, how did we get left out? And he actually sent an email to Stuber. Did you get that one?
Yeah, I did. I saw that one. And Oak Brook too did the same thing, I think, from what I understand. And so you can imagine though, if that's sort of the arrangement, it's not long before we're headed down a really bad path.
Well, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need to make this decision. Like, you guys need to look at it. You guys need to figure out what the best like negotiation you can do with DOT,
And process.
and
Right.
I want you guys to make that decision. I don't want to touch this one with a 10-foot pole.
And they need some direction. I mean, if we're going to do averages, or if we're just going to completely go with their recommendation wholeheartedly, or if they're going to use the lowest grade first.
I would rather
What
them.
did you believe before, I mean, as this process and we get said, what did you guys think was?
Yeah, well, DOT has a 5-year plan, what I call the HMIP, Highway Maintenance Improvement Program. So I think when I was there, it was a 3-year, they had to lay out in advance a 3-year program. These are the roads we're going to resurface. Now that don't mean it was in stone, because it's always changing, even the first year to some degree. And then they went to a 5-year plan. So, I'm always looking at that plan and talking to DOT and, and trying to get them to put subdivision roads. Because usually when you're doing a program, you need some, you don't need all big roads, you need some smaller roads to fill in the budget gaps. So, I'm working with DOT and looking at their plan, and sort of letting that drive, and also looking at the payment condition surveys and what makes sense. And let them tell me what we can bump up in order, what maybe the budget won't allow this year. But I let DOT, I try to get the most out of them we can get.
Sure.
If
Yeah.
they're gonna pay for it, that's something y'all have to pay for. So I count that as a win.
So if they came to you and they said, we want to do Wyndham Hall, and those are at they range from 68 to 96.
Right.
So if they came and said, hey, we want to pave Wyndham Hall for you,
Right.
and they're on Mary's chart, they're number 13 on the list, then I think we would say, okay, if they want to pay for it, then yeah, let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll do number 1.
That's the approach we took with Weddington Chase.
So for example, I can tell you,
Does that make sense?
like initially they had Providence Estates on their 2019 road program.
Okay. That they were gonna pay for
They
that?
had, let's see, they had Valhalla at like their 2021.
Okay,
So, I was working with them to try to get Beechwood and Providence Ridge on there.
okay,
So we had agreed that Providence Ridge and Beechwood would be 2020 roads,
because you said Valhalla was 2021?
2021.
Okay,
And so then, that was like April, and they agreed, sure, let's put them 2020.
okay,
Well, about May, they thought they had some extra money. And they said, well, what if we just go ahead and bump those up to 2019? I'm like, sure,
yeah, and they changed that, have they since changed?
And then right at the last second, they're like, we're not sure about the budget. We got to cut Providence Ridge.
Okay,
So that's why Providence Ridge, got bumped out. But
so those are the ones that they're gonna pave, or they're gonna pay for, you said it was Providence Estates, Providence Ridge,
You said Providence Ridge got bumped
or
out,
Providence Ridge got bumped out?
so 2 of the roads are
So-
doing?
they're paying Beechwood and Providence Estates, and a little bit in Firethorn.
So Providence Ridge
So
got
that's,
bumped out, or it's still showing on my list? Or are you just talking about what we gotta pay for?
It's not in the current.
Yeah, it would
agreement.
bump back to 2020 now. Providence
so
Ridge.
that's the
Oh.
reason that we were picking up the rest of Firethorn, because they were gonna go ahead and do 2 roads in there, and then that would be what we paid for. That's how you guys got
So
all of
where's-
Firethorn this year.
So
Is that
this-
right?
This isn't accurate?
That's the accurate assessment that is the plan, but when DOT presented their contract, Providence Ridge was not taken out because of budget cuts.
Was taken out because of.
Was taken out, did I say was not?
Yeah. 'cause
Okay,
it
was taken out.
So where's the list now? I've been staring at this thing. for the last
If you look
30
at the
minutes.
exhibit that's in your agenda packet, Exhibit A,
Our agenda.
So I'm staring at,
Hang on.
approved agreement, is it in there?
yes. Turn to this page right here, it looks like this. Exhibit A is all the,
Okay.
Where-
So that
where
was
is
my
that?
question, right? Because I said, well, how come the Providence Ridge is not listed in the contract? And yet it's on the 4-year plan.
Here's my agenda packet. Here's it's a consideration resolution to assume maintenance.
Yeah, keep going. Keep
Robert.
going, like 2 more
Robert.
pages.
Robert, is this?
There.
It's
No.
right before the
There.
resolution.
Harvey, I'm gonna send you this road acceptance policy, if you could print a couple copies of that, because I don't think anyone else has it, but I think it would probably be helpful.
So this is, the first is Providence Estates, Beechwood, Firethorn, then Heritage Oak, and Woodland Forest. Okay.
What's before that? What is that? Before
Laurelwood and
Providence
Banyan Way
Estates.
is Providence
I'm not on
Estate.
the internet, that won't help.
It goes at the bottom.
Oh, it starts here.
Providence Estates,
Oh,
Beechwood.
Oh, I see.
Fire-
here, hold on a
Okay.
minute.
Okay,
Up, it goes up.
I see.
So that's the reason that because they were gonna do 2 of the roads in Firethorn, so we said, let's just go ahead and get all of Firethorn done, because somebody at some point thought that we were doing whole subdivisions, is that right?
I must
See
not
if
be
you can
reading
say
this
that-
right. Is this saying we're paying
Are you going on the internet?
464,000?
Yeah, I was gonna try.
No, that's the total.
That's the total for Firethorn. NC, Robert, if you look all the way to the right, NC DOT's picking up 2 of those. So it's like, it's gotta be 383,000, right?
Take out the 63 and the
11.
11.
So if you take that down, that's gotta be the 383
So we're
that we're,
at 388,000. We're basically 400 grand.
Correct. For the total project.
Acceptance policy.
And all of that is,
There.
if I'm reading this right, all of that is Firethorn.
yes.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
So Providence Estates is free to us, NCDOT's doing it,
Everything else NC DOT is paying for,
but Firethorn's costing us 400 grand.
correct.
Is that because of the condition?
Correct.
No, the condition of
It's-
most of the roads are fine.
I think it's
right
the
here,
It's
length.
because the
But he just-
condition is higher. If
Yeah.
it were lower, they'd do it,
Correct.
but because it's higher, they won't do it.
But this is the max that they will do this year, was what is on here, because
Yeah.
that's, because we pulled off Providence Ridge.
But more of the
Correct.
village money, right? More of the money resources are being spent on roads that
Right.
are not necessarily in great disrepair.
But now, if you take the names off, because, you know, I really didn't want to be in the position of having to
Yeah.
take subdivisions.
I don't either.
If this is supposed to be a skip year, but we don't totally skip and we let them do the free stuff, it's technically a skip year for us. We're not paying out, but we're still getting roads done.
Yes.
So would they do just the free stuff as part of?
They want us to
Well,
pony up some, don't they? Or no? Do they
So
care?
The
They're
Powell
good
bill.
with Providence
Our part would be the
Estates.
Powell bill.
We got some Firethorn roads they agreed to do, and we've got Beechwood. Is Beechwood still on there?
Okay, and I have,
Yes.
I have an issue with that too, but go ahead, honestly.
Well, you see my
Mark.
logic.
Ask the question, say it again, Robert. I didn't hear.
So, you know, technically, we're supposed to be in a skip year if we were on our 10-year plan. But instead of it being a skip year, if we stuck with this plan, but just stuck with the free roads, the ones that are free to us, is there anything wrong with that?
Only that it's already let. I mean, it's already been awarded.
So the contract has
So
already been
They would be
done.
annoyed, but, I mean,
They
what is
might be a
that?
little annoyed. Possible.
Now you want to put your standards in their contract and pull
Yeah.
the skin in the game out.
We put a lot of skin in the game so far with roundabouts.
Yeah.
We spend money with DOT. DOT got $500,000 from us for this roundabout, and they got a couple $100,000 a year, so they can be annoyed, but they shouldn't be mad considering the skin we have in the game.
I have a question, and this may be a stupid question, but Firethorn is currently DOT roads.
Correct.
So I guess, why are we paying, I know we're trying to pay to bring them up to a higher standard, but if we accept those Firethorn roads that they do, the 63 and the 11, if we accept them now after they do that, would that not put skin in the game for us, I guess? Because we're accepting the roads that they've just brought up the standard and therefore bringing, you know, a lower maintenance level
For
to them.
So what you're saying, which makes sense to me, is we take the roads.
Yeah, after
which
they
is our
after they
skin in the
finish.
game. They want us to take the roads, right?
Not before they pave them, though.
Well, there's two of them that pay them.
Oh, so you're saying go ahead and just take all of Firethorn, and we'll come back and pave them later.
We'll take the free.
Yeah, I would say,
roads.
yeah, take the free ones, and then that pulls their mileage maintenance away.
DOT's agreeing to do,
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, but I thought you were saying take all of them, and then that's our
Seminole.
skin in the game. And
Yeah,
Bearwick.
Bearwick.
and is it Spyglass? I
No,
can't
it's
remember what it
Bearwick.
is.
It's Bearwick, the one that's
Is it
really low.
Bearwick?
It's Bearwick.
Well, their name's on
Thank you.
Honor Court too. I don't know where that's at.
Bearwick's the very first one on the list under Firethorn.
That's,
Sorry.
they've got us.
Or here, I can pass them out for you.
They've got them
Yeah,
goes
one
to
have-
Seminole.
Seminole
You got one?
and
Okay.
Honor. Bearwick's like the worst one.
Yeah, they got Marvin doing it.
Huh.
I don't know if Barbie probably wants one for the record, I'm not sure.
Yes,
but-
please.
Yeah, Bearwick's like the worst. Bearwick is,
It's like 50 something, 57, 53.
where is it?
I think, Christina, you're on the.
It's a
I think
50.
we're on the same page as far as,
50, yeah,
if they
55.
want skin in the
50.
game,
Let's
and
just
we
go ahead and
agree to
take
take
them
the
over.
roads,
Wait, are you just saying those two that they're paving, or are you saying all of Firethorn?
let them pave them. And Mary chime in if you want, but what Christina's saying is, if the skin in the game to DOT is that we take the roads, is that what you're calling skin in the game?
No, they want money
That's
too,
part of it, yeah.
for their contractors that they've already let. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think too, I mean, I know we have issues we gotta clean up with the other subdivisions, but if you look at the exhibit, we would be taking over Providence Estates, assuming we address these issues and we get it figured out. Beechwood, Heritage Oak, and Woodland Forest.
This is
So
in
we
the
would,
resolution?
say again?
You mean in the resolution?
Well, I mean, they would be repaving all of those streets. Those are the free streets,
Right.
according to the exhibit. So we would take those over after they complete that resurfacing because they've been brought up to standards. They no longer have the maintenance on those. So we would take those over. That reduces their maintenance cost. That increases ours because we're taking over that after we adopt it. And then we just address the Firethorn in our new policy. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Does that make sense to y'all?
I just don't want to be picking subdivisions. I mean, I really don't.
More specifically, roads and subdivisions.
Correct.
That's why we
Correct.
thought we were turning everything over to A&T to make the calendar.
I think this is just asking for a world of,
But the problem is it's been turned over to AMT a couple different times and they've come up with a couple different lists. So it looks like, and I can't answer that, obviously, I wasn't part of it, so I don't know.
me
but-
neither.
Nor was I.
Well, and I think Philip and I have talked about this 4-year plan. It's problematic in general because it didn't include inflation. So the numbers are somewhat unrealistic anyway. So if we give them the boundary of 300,000 every 2 years, you figure out the rest from there. That leaves our subjective opinions out, and they take their technical expertise and make it happen within that.
And I would
parameter.
say that that's fine, except this is the other little element that kind of got thrown at us today, right? If you guys take a second. So I think it's good for us to know what, I know for me, it was good to actually see it written down. It seems like we would have to rewrite a policy, because the policy actually does say an entire subdivision network will be considered for addition as a whole, or in the event that road additions are pursued by phasing, logical termini, or sorry, that's separate. Or in the event the road additions are pursued by phasing, logical termini will be considered. But my point being is, I'm somewhat relieved that they did write down concrete terms by which they were hoping to pursue these road resurfacing agendas or schedules. The other one being the road addition process shall not begin until at least 80% of the homes are occupied. Anyway, I just feel like it's important. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to that because it seems to cover some of the things we've been talking about. So if you want to change everything, you almost have to change this policy too.
Well, I mean, and it, on here it says it's not accepting private roads at this time, which obviously we're getting ready to accept private roads. So obviously this policy needs to be updated and revised.
So my concern is this second set of, I mean, this year what we're gonna do. We have, how many roads? We got Providence Estates, Firethorn, and what are the other ones?
Providence,
Beechwood.
Beechwood, Heritage Oak, and Woodland
Okay,
Forest.
so we went forward with this all this time, and you helped me out with the logistics of this or how it affects going forward with DOT. So in the middle of this process, because it appears, at least in my neighborhood, that there was a lot of work already done, spent prepping these roads with marks and stuff. I assume that's in every other neighborhood. So they've done that work has been paid for, but what I'm hearing is possibly changing, we're asking to possibly change the rules and say, okay, we're only gonna do these roads now out of all of this, and all that work we did is what, just left to us for us to repair as Marvin, or is it something that we're saying DOT, we're not gonna have you do certain roads and stuff? So my fears were changing the rules in the middle of the game,
Okay, so
if that's fair.
Well,
I don't think
the rules that got-
I don't think we're changing the rules in the middle of the game. I think, I think we're trying to get back to the rules that were established. Back to the conversation earlier in this meeting. Some members of this council have been here for 6 years from the minute that this program began, and it certainly doesn't include me, and I know it doesn't include Ms. Vandenberg. So when this policy was adopted, the one that I did, the reason I was late was because I wanted to be sure that I had this and read through this, and then got calls from staff to be sure that I had it. Why? Because I think it's worth it. It's not about abandoning the rules in the middle of the game. It's about remembering that you have them and adhering to them and going back and reading them. And if you want to change them, I've said this a million years now, you don't like the rules, change them, but don't ignore them. And the rules are here. And I feel badly that others are in this position right now where we're having to negotiate this. But I also feel, and I think everyone else here should feel the same way, sorry, I do, that it doesn't look like somehow between 2017 and 2019, roads that were adopted as part of this policy suddenly just get, brushed and moved aside with arbitrary criteria that's not clear to me. Because, for example, you look at Beechwood, I look at Providence Ridge, for example, its roads were just as bad, and maybe there's a reason for this, but why would Providence Ridge be bumped off this list when Beechwood, per the rating, has decent roads, is being moved up? So I'm just pointing to that as a reason to say, the rules at some point were abandoned and arbitrary criteria was put in its place. And that's what I'm having trouble with.
I understand it completely because I wasn't involved in this. Once we turned it over to you guys, we're leaving it up to you to kind of guide us and which is the best way, because you're doing the negotiating with DOT, we're not, you know.
Well, still in my head, and I still hear road acceptance policy is different than a road paving.
Correct.
To me, those two are totally different, but that's just me. I may be
You're right.
wrong.
It's about, right, but it's the village's policy who then goes ahead and finds contract work in order to do the resurfacing, right? And so we have to adhere, when we go to look for contracts and we go to whether we're assigning those contracts with NCDOT or whoever, we need to look at our policy and make sure whoever's negotiating those for us are
But
adhering to it, I think.
But I think we recognized earlier though too, that we weren't gonna get anywhere with going on our own contracts. We were gonna team up with, when DOT was there, and utilize you guys who've been part of DOT to kind of say, okay, how do you
That's
I mean,
just the
work
contract.
The way
Right,
they're
right.
working, we're working currently, Marvin's working currently, is the roads we get on the resurfacing contract, we're taking them over. So in essence, the resurfacing is becoming the road acceptance. You know,
Right.
and when, in my mind, when that road acceptance policy was written, that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right.
I think it was though, because it
Really?
specifically
Yeah,
says the
it
Village of
does.
Marvin shall consider acceptance of existing NCDOT subdivision roads.
But that don't mean they're gonna be paved though.
Correct.
Like, you could
Well, I
still
don't
be
know why we would
accepted.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have
Well-
accepted them if they weren't gonna be.
But
No,
like
I was-
Marvin
I was
Creek-
here for this
Yeah, you
bit.
might remember.
Okay.
So I was here for this one.
Uh,
John said the same thing, we gotta take roads, we gotta back to the prime of the pump.
right.
And the idea was, the strategy was, we'll take over roads that don't need done for 10, 15, 20 years.
And that's why Marvin
DOT
Creek was
happy.
on there, because they're in the 90s.
As long as they're paved though, right?
But that's also why Farthorne is on there because they're in the 90s.
Right.
But now we're repaving the entire subdivision because of 2 roads. And that's problematic to me, to spend 400 grand in a year that we're not supposed to be spending anything. This is supposed to be our off year.
Yeah.
And
And that,
let me interject there
And
too.
how we got here today, I don't know, I wasn't involved in it, but
the
I would
off-year
interject
thing
there
sort
only
of comes
because here on
after
this
the fact.
list, this list they accepted as part of the policy,
What was that?
doesn't have Firethorn on here at all. Right?
Because it
has-
would've been
well,
outside
because we
the
were
5
dealing
years.
with 20 years, but we were only writing down
The 5
Five.
years.
Yeah.
It would have been outside that 5
We were
years.
talking 20 years, but that's down to 5 years document.
Okay, so, and I'm only just trying to break this down, whether it's Beechwood or Providence Ridge or whoever. Part of the way I understand it, I would say that the other element of this puzzle though is that if you look at this list, it's got NCDOT teaming on it, which infers that there's some kind of paving going on with this acceptance, right?
Which may or may not still be the case, like Weddington Chase, they had a few bad roads, and we were actually gonna go in there and just do the bad roads. But NCDOT came up with a lot more money. And I say NCDOT, but A&T helped DOT come to that conclusion. And we were able to do the whole subdivision,
Okay.
and it only cost us 150 grand? Or
Wait,
somewhere
last
around
year?
there? For Weddington Chase,
Oh.
they picked up 400 grand of that subdivision.
Well, like if you look at
We
your,
changed every other year.
We were always gonna do every other year,
That was from the beginning.
that was from the beginning.
like if you look
And
at,
do it in 20 years?
Yes.
That's what I saw on the chart way back now, way back. Before it was even adopted, the first thing that Ron and the council ever gave out was this 20-year plan, and it was always alternating. And I said, well, why are we gonna take 20 years? And they, you know.
because we're gonna do like 2 roads at a time.
I guess that was what they were thinking, is why only spend mostly Powellville? I mean, honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
It
I
was,
just told you
the
what I
idea
saw.
was,
I didn't
it
get
has,
involved, really.
Ron, some of it was Ron's idea, and it made sense, is we paid off the park, so that interest burden, we were moving to roads or to general fund. We were getting roughly 130, 140 from Powell. We were gonna chip in the same, so we were trying to stay under 300 grand every other year. for 20 years, and then of course it would, in theory, start over again until if PAL ever got discontinued, we'd have to reevaluate. But that was the original idea. And we spent that money last year. Now we're talking about spending 400 this year. I think what happened, I heard someone say something about the timeline got crunched because we talked about doing a bond. We were considering just saying, let's just do it all,
Right.
which we decided against.
Right.
But then the timeline didn't get spread back out. It got crunched for the bond.
Not just for the bond. No.
Part of those talks. Yeah, part of those talks. But it never got spread back out, and what we're talking about is spreading it back out. Or what I'm talking about is spreading it back out. And I don't know who else is on board with that,
To 20 years?
to at least, well, we're talking about 8.
We talked
Eight.
eight. We talked, I think they did the
8 to 10.
numbers and they said
Eight.
8 would be better. And that's what
That
I think we
8 to 10
agreed
range
to.
is good with me.
So if
If,
y'all,
hold on, let me ask a question. Hold on, I gotta ask a question. If NCDOT is going to pay for roads, they are paying for roads this year. Are they requiring us to pony up money this year in order for them to do roads for us this year?
the 388,000, yes.
Are they requiring us to do Firethorn?
Not Firethorn, I'm just saying, are they requiring us to do road? Like, are they requiring us to put up our own money to do roads this year? Like, every year, if they say, hey, we're gonna do, you know, XYZ neighborhood and ABC neighborhood, and then you guys have to do X number of dollars.
Like Providence Estates was already on there, so they was gonna do that regardless.
If we did nothing.
we did nothing, that's on their program, they're gonna do it.
Okay. So, but because they have, whatever you said, they had done something.
Right, this work's already been in a proposal, sent to Raleigh, advertised, bids open, awarded to the contract, available in July.
But I'm sure there's some provisions in there if we pull out. I mean, we haven't signed the contract. I mean, they might be mad, but
Right,
there's
Well,
no.
And if they came back to you all and said, well, we need them to at least adopt some road, take some roads, we could talk about that. I'm not saying they're gonna do that, but it begs another question that I wanna get to regarding Firethorn and the fact that they own their roads right now, but let's finish this conversation.
Well, I was just going to ask.
NCDOT owns their roads.
CDOT owns it.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Okay.
I was
See,
just,
so I have always wanted to use the standard that DOT presented to us when we were just a neighborhood fending for ourselves. This is, okay, you want us, you're required to take them over per our deed, but you're telling us from a developer standpoint who's gone is bring them up to our standards. So what I, as Marvin, have always been on board, if we're gonna take over roads, then DOT should bring them up to their own standards before we take them over.
Which they're negotiating like
Right.
with Providence Estates. DOT's saying, we'll be responsible for those roads.
but when you start getting into high 70s, 80s,
They're not
pavement
going
condition
to.
survey, they're like, we wouldn't pay that one ourselves, so why should we
And
give you
what
money?
John originally sold us on, and I know you weren't here for this, Kevin, you may have remember Joe's. This is dynamic, it's gonna keep changing, so it could be that next year DOT says, okay, well, now when we evaluate Firethorn, some of those roads went from 90s to 80s, because people are building in there, there's a couple lots, and they're running trucks on it. And the compaction wasn't right, or it was a wet winter. Now you got 80s. Now all of a sudden, they're willing to do it.
That's true, I mean, you could wait, postpone, and they would pay more to do Firethorn.
Correct.
So that's two questions. So, because this evaluation was done in 16, it looks like. Is there a good chance that these numbers have changed,
I'm sure they've changed some,
but not enough to warrant you guys to go back out and rewrite them?
Actually, I
Well,
wrote
let's
them last
continue.
night, I am answering it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't couldn't have an answer. I wrote John Underwood last night
Okay.
and Philip, and John Underwood asked me to bring up the fact, or said we should discuss the fact, that we probably needed to have the rating system redone again.
Okay.
So I told him that I would mention that.
Okay,
Yeah, just so
so,
you know.
so then we should do that, because if,
At some point, yeah, especially
Okay.
since you're going to a 8 or, whatever.
so maybe like in the fall, like we can,
Yeah, I
because
mean, they can
this
maybe-
isn't gonna change these ratings aren't gonna change anything that we're doing right now for this paving season.
And they're not going up, right? The scores aren't getting better.
Right, they're gonna get worse. Okay,
DOT does it every 2 years.
say that again?
DOT does it every 2 years.
So do we get do they give us the scores?
Well, they're not gonna do your road.
Oh, they do that, the main, I gotcha. So okay, so you're saying like every 2 years they should be
Well, wait a minute, wait
reevaluated,
a
okay.
minute. They are DOT's roads.
Yeah, but they don't do neighborhood roads, they do like main roads.
Well, I'm just saying.
Now, they'll do them, but
You live down that road, right? So is there an
Question, now I can't think of
economy,
what it was.
is there economy
Oh,
of
I remember what it
scale
was.
if you do like Kim said and reevaluate, piggyback and do the curbs at the same time? Is it your same, is it you, Mike? So, do you do curb and road?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically just like a developer, the same policy you've got in place right now. You go out, you do your drainage structures, curb and gutter, get all that repaired. Then you go into the asphalt repairs, and then you do the work service, which would be the resurface. So if you want to get it in that same format, you gotta get out ahead of this resurfacing and repair these substructures to have them prepared prior to this resurfacing.
That's what I was gonna say,
And that's
so,
basically what everybody, the ones that's not even going to DOT, when y'all inherit those, they'll be went through that process.
Yeah, that's,
so,
yeah, right.
so should we do that like every other year? Like 1 year we
Off
do the
years.
roads,
Yeah.
1 year we do the curbs of the upcoming
Yeah.
roads.
I'm saying there's probably an economy of scale to do the road and the curb at the same time, because they're physically out there walking.
That's exactly what I would say, just
Okay.
all at one time.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we're sending them back out, if it's already in our budget, already in our plan, let's say to send AMT out next year or this fall, whatever, to look at roads, if we knew what the cost difference is to have them look at the curb at the same time, which I'm assuming wouldn't be too bad if he's already walking the roads. It's gonna take more time if you're looking at the curb too. If we knew what that number looked like, we could make a decision. Does that make sense?
I think what we're getting ready to do is advise them to go back and do a pavement condition study and change our policy and
curb
go
and
from there.
gutter.
But I guess, can I ask one question to get some clarity so we can get some things checked off? Am I under the impression that we are prepared, is there a consensus to move forward with taking out our portion of this agreement and getting them to move forward with the projects that they were gonna do, removing our portions out, understanding that we were gonna accept? I know we have an issue we need to clean up.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
the
don't know how that
problem.
affects the contract. I mean,
Um,
how they look at that.
I guess everybody under the impression that we're removing Firethorn, I guess is,
I do not want to be that person that says that, so.
I want to remove the money. I'm not removing Firethorn. I'm removing the money because this was supposed to be a free year. And if DOT is committed and they've left the contracts on the stuff that says NCDOT next to it, I'm all about letting them move forward with that if you all are okay with it.
We haven't opened that one too.
And
What-
but it's the stuff we've got on target to pay 400 grand for that I don't want to pay 400 grand for this year.
okay.
So.
And I'm honestly looking at the column of numbers, what subdivision it is, doesn't matter to me.
So Mary, are you good with everything other than
Well,
Providence
here,
Estates?
so now enter another layer, this is
Okay.
why this is becoming frustrating. I have no issue, if NCDOT wants to pave private roads, go at it.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think this village should be accepting any road that is not platted as a public road, that has not been offered for public application. And I have I don't, you can write it in 20 pages, 50 pages, I don't care how many pages you write it in. That
Well,
does not change.
And by reading the policy that that we just found this morning, it does specifically state in there that we will not accept. So we can go back to privately platted roads. At the very bottom it says that. So we could always go back to DOT with the issues with Providence Estates, potentially Heritage Oak, I'm not sure, and just let them know that our records show that they're still recorded as private platted, and which goes against our policy. I don't know.
It sounds like they're gonna repave the roads either way, but that doesn't mean,
That we have to take them in.
because if we do, you're setting up, and I live in a neighborhood of private roads.
Can you imagine?
You know, if you guys, if the village, if you all outnumber, see, I still vote no, even though my roads are horrible, but they're private, and everyone in there's okay with it. You know, we like that they're private, and we like our neighborhood. But if you three said today, hey, Robert, you know, we're just gonna start taking private roads, I'd still vote no, because I don't think it's the plan we agreed upon, even though it would benefit me. I would vote no.
I think there
There's
should be
other-
a process to take them
Sure,
over.
there should be a
Yeah,
process, but also there's other things that we gotta remember. Right now, us having private roads gives us some certain measure of control over our neighborhood. And I think a neighborhood like mine, where they have animals and they want horses to walk on the road and all that,
That's right.
we like it that way. Now Providence Estates, I need to remind y'all, there was a big issue that the fact that there were private roads saved that neighborhood. Well, I'm looking at you,
That's right.
Christina, like you would know, but you wouldn't. There was a huge issue with someone trying to tap in to that subdivision as an egress for a 200 lot subdivision.
Right.
200
To
lot?
make it a cut through.
To make it a cut through for a 200 lot subdivision
And
in
those private roads
South
saved
Carolina.
them. Yeah.
And because they were private roads, it stopped that.
Right.
So I would
If
not.
we make them public roads and that guy's still out there, we have murdered that subdivision's
They're right.
rights.
Mhm.
You follow me?
Wouldn't
Yep.
do it.
And there's always a reason, and full disclosure for this council, I had a call from an individual who lives at Robinwood across from things. And I had no idea what he wanted to talk about, we had coffee, and that was his issue. He's like, we're paying taxes, we want you to turn over. I says, well, my first knee-jerk reaction to opinion of one would be, you need to bring them up to our own standards before we just took them over. His issue was, well, you're driving buses up there. I said, have you checked with neighbors yet? Because we could stop driving buses up there.
I was gonna say, I'm not
tear it
driving
up,
buses.
And then you gotta deal with your neighbors saying, you gotta walk all your kids down to the main road
Yeah,
and have
we're not
them hang
driving
out
the
there.
buses,
So
right?
we're not driving the buses,
You
we
do
can
a lot
stop
for the
that.
school, but I've never seen you behind the steering wheel of the school.
Right, right.
I
But
do
anyways,
more
I was
than
just
Joe
making
does
it
now.
clear that I did talk to them, but there's in some, and maybe that's not gonna matter because that, if do get turned over. And I can see us saying, we're fine with that, get with your neighbors. If they agree to bring it up to our standards, I can see us potentially bringing that up for a vote.
So can I, and I'm gonna piggyback on that, because obviously I'm the one who's been creating some degree of issue with the Providence Road Estates issue, because I've seen that, so thank you for bringing it up. That said, I did have a notes in here that it's not like I'm opposed to going and reaching out to them and saying, guys, let's do this legitimate, right? If you're all interested, this is how you do it. But this was my problem about kind of getting into the road business a little bit. I was always walking that line. If we don't understand what the state already does and aren't ready to replace that somehow with our own policies and our own processes, and we haven't thought of these obstacles ahead of time and put these policies in place ahead of time, we keep jumping forward and running before we put the legs underneath us. And that's my issue with Providence Road Estates. You're right, I have no problem, Robinwood, Meadowlark, you name it. Here's the process, come to us and talk to us, we'll help you work it out.
We don't have that process.
But we don't have that right now.
You and
Which
Joe
is
are
my
saying-
argument from the beginning.
You and
Yeah.
Joe are saying the same thing, and we said it when we decided to get into Palace. We had to draw the line, right? And we said, no private roads, period. And, you know, my neighborhood is one of them. We don't do it.
So, okay, so just because NCDOT is paving Providence Estates does not mean that we have to take them in, correct?
That's, if we sign
We
the
will have to
agreement.
change the agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
The agreement
Hold on,
says
which
yes.
agreement?
This agreement with DOT.
Yeah.
Trust me,
Okay.
they're not in the business. They've told us already in
Oh,
their letter.
so if we
of
say
doing
we're not
neighborhood
taking
roads.
them
There's a
in-
reason they're doing neighborhood roads is for us to take them over.
So
That's right.
And
Well, we can change it, in well,
yes, that's the case.
Well, the other
there's
thing
pros
is-
and cons to doing it, and
But if
I
they're-
think the cons are outweighing
But
the
if,
pros.
but if they're private, like the neighbors own them, we
Well,
can't.
DOT,
Exactly.
some people think they're public, some people think they're private. Clearly, it's,
So who?
Mary's done enough research, she knows that they're private.
They
The people
almost
that
made
live
it
there are
public,
private.
almost, but yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't get quite there.
Cox has her opinion, DOT has their opinion. If DOT's willing to do it,
Yeah.
but we're saying we're not, if they're private, they stay private. I don't see why DOT would have a problem with that.
But then in that
Oh,
case,
hell.
if DOT takes them over, but we don't take them over, but they pave
They
them
pave
to
them.
be theirs, then they could potentially be open up for that cut through to be approved later.
No.
If they pave them, well, we haven't taken it
No,
over.
even if they pay
Well,
them, we don't
then
take
they're
them
the
over.
state roads, then it goes to the state, and
Well,
then
and that's
it
what
loses their
that is-
ability
That's why
to
this
fight that.
Providence issue is
So
so
I-
thick.
the question would be is,
If somebody
maybe
comes
they
in-
just take a
That's
section
probably
and
not.
say, this is always gonna be private, so that can never be, maybe that's the halfway answer. You figure out everything else, but that little section that would connect would protect that neighborhood from a cut through, if that makes sense.
And he's,
Speaking out loud.
there are some that believe that because that sign is right on Laurenwood, Laurelwood, yeah, it says state maintained. There are some in there that still believe that it's public, right? The reality though is that when that subdivision tried to come in and use it as a cut through, because it was not yet deeded public, it had never been offered for public dedication. At the very best case scenario, it's remained gray and it still has protected them. But at least right now, whatever that gray issue is, it's NCDOT's issue. It's not ours, right? So
Ex-
that's kind of the bottom line for me. I
Except
don't
for
want us
people,
to do it.
some people think that it's public and they want their roads paved in there. So
Most
it's,
people may not understand what they're
well,
being given.
well, and I'm not saying that, but I'm like, but that's, yeah, but they still think they're public, so they're like, why aren't we getting our roads paved too?
So back to my question, can you do where we pave the majority of it, but with that access there, can you just keep that private? and
Oh,
not-
yeah, those people are gonna be real not happy.
Well, no, I mean,
No.
that prevents from ever getting into litigation about, what's been, but I
Can
thought
I
I read that the 4 attorneys looked at this. And-
No, that's because Kevin gave that, and I didn't even read it all in detail. Kevin Bringawat gave that before he looked at the plat. So, anyway, what I was gonna say is, I think, my only thing is, I think whatever's going on with Providence Estates can be resolved, but I think it requires having their HOAs in, telling them where things have gone wrong. If it hadn't been immediately platted, but they'd all caught it back in '69 when this happened, they'd be fine. But it's gone on for 25 years and people have bought homes in there assuming the roads are private. That's been the issue.
How many HOAs are in there?
It's like 3 or 4.
There's one big one, but 7 total.
7?
Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
7. And they have fought each other, sued each other. That's not a mix I want to be in, honestly.
So then how are we supposed to fix this problem?
We can, like it's just, we've been delayed. I've kind of mapped it out with them a few times with a few residents in there about how to get this done. But we need time to do that. We need them all to redo the process they did before.
We can just tell DOT we're having some issues that we need to get resolved. They know we're having issues. I've been in communication with them about Providence Estates, so we can tell them.
I mean, I
if y'all
say,
want to do it.
if they wanna pave it, let's go, let
Yeah,
them
that's
pave
what I'm
it,
saying.
and
If
then
they
we'll
wanna do it,
figure
go
out the
ahead.
issue.
Yeah.
If they want to pave it, I say let them pave it. If
But we're not
somebody-
going to
No.
sign an agreement that says we're
If
going to
they're-
accept
if
it.
they're-
Somebody shows up in my neighborhood and starts paving stuff,
You say thank you so much.
and ignore what's going on.
Say thank you so
Watch
very
from your
much.
porch.
Yeah, do it, yeah.
But if
You
they
guys
started
need
to
some
put rules
substance.
on you, said you can't,
I didn't sign it.
Now,
I
do we
think
have
that's gonna go over.
do we
not
have-
too well with.
do we have any other issues on private, or are the other ones okay?
The only other one is the
Heritage
Heritage Oaks
Oak.
is the strangest plat I've ever seen.
Okay.
Again, because I think, what is it, 136-96 says that you have, that every plat has to have public or private. It just says nothing on it.
Okay, so then, if we're looking at the exhibit in the agreement, we can let them know, we can let Lee Ainsworth know that we are having some issues that we need to work through with Providence Estates and Heritage Oak. Is Woodland Forest in Heritage Oak?
It is in there.
I didn't look at their plat, is there?
That's the same neighborhood?
Woodland
Not
Forest.
really.
No, Heritage Oak is one
Okay.
lane.
They're both just Needle-Eye neighborhoods. They
Okay.
just-
So we would be willing to sign this agreement, and I'm making an assumption here, so y'all interject if I'm wrong. We would be willing to sign this agreement, taking out Providence Estates.
But they can still pave them.
That's right, if they wanna do it,
Take
that's
out
fine.
Acceptance of.
Acceptance.
the
Acceptance
private-
of, yes.
Private portions,
Um,
or all of it.
all of it's privately platted right now. I don't know if it's, according to you two. And then, so we would be okay with signing this agreement, taking out Providence Estates. If they want to pave it, that's
The
fine.
acceptance portion.
Yes. Taking out anything in Firethorn that says Marvin beside it.
Where are we looking? Oh, that sheet, sorry. I was looking at the
It's
wrong.
Exhibit A we were going off
Yeah,
of,
she's
right?
Yeah.
suggesting an edit to the contract.
And then also removing Heritage Oak. So basically.
Until we figure out if it's.
Right, we would be willing to take over ownership of all the all the Woodland Forest, all of the Beechwood, all of the Firethorn that they do upon resurfacing. And then leave it at that. And then that'll give us a year to work on Providence Estates and Heritage Oak to come into our compliance with acceptability.
Unless they want to pave it.
Exactly. And then we would take it over if we get our
We get everything,
resurfacing out.
yeah.
And then, do we write something in there, anything that they feel, I don't know if they could negotiate this and stuff, but anything they feel they want to hand over to us, if they want to pave it at their cost, then would we agree to take it over if they're willing to?
As long as it's
any
public.
neighborhood
As
they
long as
pick
it's
on their
public.
own.
As long as we reconcile
it's
our
public.
issues, yes.
No, I'm saying
Public.
any neighborhood, pick, say they want to go into Marvin
Just
Creek.
saying, if they show up with a truck,
Yeah.
Exactly.
just start paving.
And we would say,
Marvin
we would be
Estates.
willing to take that over after it was done properly.
As
and-
long as they're public, not private.
Like change out the
Right.
mileage, the
Yes.
same mileage.
Yeah, done properly.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but that's what I'm getting at, because I thought I heard somehow in, whether it's private conversations, that there's nothing more DOT would want than to get rid of neighborhood roads,
true.
okay? So that being said, if they wanna go ahead and make it a brand new shiny car for us, and we're saying, we'll take it over, then that's what happens.
If Lee calls and says, hey, we got a truckload of asphalt, we're looking to put down today, someone call me. Do a special meeting. Whatever it takes.
Okay.
Indian Trail, put where they put the all
So
What did you do?
you're gonna kill me, Christina, because I was looking at the wrong sheet when you were reading that.
I'm getting ready to reiterate, so yeah.
By not having a policy in place when we took over roads.
Well, we had
that's
one, we
of
just
the
weren't
biggest
This
following
one's so
it.
hard to read too.
I'm just
It's
saying.
gonna make me dizzy.
So,
ins and outs.
do you need a motion for Steve?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to reiterate, so,
I think if we're all in agreement, we're good, right?
hang on one second.
Barbie, do we have waters?
Yeah, I'll
I'll
get
grab
it.
it. No, you're not.
No, we're
If you have
cool.
a container, there's a big container. in
There's
the
a big
fridge.
container. in the
I'm
kitchen.
good, I have water, I was asking for somebody else, there's Smarty Pants.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my own.
I got mine.
I'm going to call for a break here too.
We have a break
Are y'all-
in 35
I'll wait
minutes
till
when
he
we're
gets back.
done.
It's still duty calls.
Well, go, I mean,
Well,
I'll wait until Robert gets back real quick. While I'm waiting on that, is everybody in agreement to allow AMT to add
yes,
this to our
Yes.
specs manual
yes,
and to the provisions of our NCDOT agreement?
yes.
Okay, can I just get a motion on that?
Sure. Make a motion to add what.
You don't have a
the
quorum to make
standard
that motion
and
yet.
callouts to both the NCDOT, they didn't excuse themselves, NCDOT, road manual, the Village of Marvin's road manual and
DOT agreement,
DOT agreement,
as well as manhole tie-in.
as well as manhole tie-ins.
You guys have to get that.
Yep.
detail.
And anything else in accordance with what we discussed today?
I gotta actually
Motion
watch
on the
something
table.
on.
I'll take it.
All those in favor?
Do you want it?
Aye.
No, I've got one.
We're good.
We're good.
Thank you.
No, Barbie, it passed.
It was unanimous.
Okay, unanimous?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't vote, what did we just vote on?
You already did.
You would've-
were-
you would've been
didn't
fine with
excuse
it.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, you can.
is everybody,
It was the standards for the manual.
is everybody in
And the
agreement?
manhole.
Is everybody in agreement to advise AMT to go back,
Yes.
redo the pavement condition index with a $300,000-ish every other year
Yes.
budget within 10 years?
Yes.
I still like the average idea,
Okay,
so I don't
But
like,
you
I
gotta
wanna
get,
leave
but
it
you
to
gotta get the
them.
rating in
Yes.
order to do the averages.
Right, and I'll let them do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we don't wanna start messing with the general policy of doing a subdivision at a time, that I would just like to see them then group them.
But we're talking about two different things, so
I don't
we're talking
know
about
if we are.
coming up with a list based on
Oh,
the inspections they've already done.
no, redo
No,
it.
redo
Go
it.
ahead and redo them.
Redo it.
Two different things that we're gonna talk about paying for a re-inspection,
Correct.
or what's it called?
Pavement condition
Pavement
index.
condition survey.
Yes.
Okay, so PCS.
Yes.
So we need to know how much, do we need to know in advance, or is,
Do you remember how much you charge us for this?
I have no idea.
Okay, so why don't you get back with me on the cost, and I'll bring it up in a subsequent meeting, and then we can go from there as to,
and then what Kim and I agreed upon was that if the curbing, and Mike said it makes sense to get ahead of it, doing it at the same time, if it makes sense dollar-wise, let's talk about that. So
You can throw that in there.
whatever
So-
the adder is.
Okay.
can you give me a PCI index cost and a curb and gutter index cost?
If done at the same time. Clearly, we wouldn't ask you to do them separate.
And then I'll try to get it back on the next work session meeting.
Okay.
One final thing I'm at, is there a chance
Which will
that
not be until May.
DOT could turn around and bill us for all the work that was done prepping the roads for,
Did you guys prep them, or did they prep them?
DOT did?
I think they just went out and marked patching areas.
Yeah, there's all kind of numbers.
We're talking about a couple grand at most.
I don't know the answer to that. Because there's confusion in the process was moving forward, they go do the work, they have a contract that's,
I don't
based
think
on
they'll be
this.
hung up on that, but
okay. I just want to make,
Okay, so now that everybody's here, I want to reiterate what the intent is with this contract that we've got in front of us.
Okay.
We're gonna remove Providence Estates, and when I say, I know y'all understand acceptance, but in terms of this agreement,
contract.
we need to remove it.
Okay.
Because they can do whatever they wanna do from terms of resurfacing, but if we don't remove it from this contract,
Then we have to take it.
yes.
Got it.
So we're gonna remove Providence Estates from this contract, we're gonna remove Heritage Oak from this contract, we're gonna remove all Marvin's share of Firethorn that's provided in this Exhibit A.
Hold on,
Upon,
sorry, I want to make sure I follow you this time, so you don't have to read it again. What are we doing?
in Exhibit A,
Exhibit A, okay.
Of the
So I don't
contract?
need to read that one, okay, go ahead.
remove Providence Estates
Yeah.
in its totality,
Okay.
remove Heritage Oak, remove all of Marvin's share of Firethorn, upon acceptance of all of the other roads, which include Firethorn, Beechwood, and Woodland Forest,
Okay.
upon resurfacing, we would accept those. So
Okay.
anything that says DOT beside Firethorn would remain,
Okay.
Beechwood would remain, Woodland Forest would remain, and we would be willing to accept all of those upon their resurfacing.
And when you say take out, we're just talking about taking out the acceptance.
Well, we can
We have to
take
take it out
out,
of
we
the
have to
whole
take it out of the whole
contract.
contract.
Agreement.
And
Yeah.
they'll do whatever they want to do. We can't, we're not gonna be able to tell them to pave it if we're not willing to accept it. So if they wanna do it, that's fine. And we can have that conversation with them for sure.
Sure.
But for purposes of this contract, I will remove those totally. And then they would do whatever they want.
Does that make sense to you, Mayor?
Yeah, yeah.
But then we're gonna follow up and talk to those neighborhoods,
Yes.
Correct. Yep. And then my next statement would
all
be,
7 HOAs.
that would give us time,
Eight.
HOAs.
Yeah, we need to try to.
that would give us time to research the private plat issues of Heritage Oak and Providence Estates.
Yeah.
And then we would hopefully address that in a subsequent year.
So this year won't cost us anything if we go follow this policy.
Following what I just said, correct? Yes.
and may I ask, would you be candid enough to share with us your concerns about anything we just presented? knowing what you know about how DOT works and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's doable.
Okay.
I mean, they may not be thrilled about it, but it's doable.
And, I mean, we all know it's largely our fault for not having a solid policy that we all were practicing prior to going into this. But it is what it is.
And I'll talk to Lee about it, and I'll try to spin it in a positive way.
Please do.
He knows that we've had some issues on Providence Estates, and he knows what we're dealing with. So,
And again, I think a vote of one would say if they're willing to come in and bring it, and start making all the roads things, I think we could accept them a lot quicker if they're willing to pay for it. Just kind of like what we did. It's the reverse in our own neighborhood and stuff. But
and I'll let him know that we're going to do our due diligence as fast as we can on these 2 private roads to assure that we can get them to agree to do it properly. And then once they do that, we'll be ready to accept them. So if they want to go ahead and pursue the development, that's totally fine. We would be willing to accept once we get some of our issues from liability cleared up.
So,
There's an asphalt truck looking for somewhere to go.
oh my gosh, I thought you just said something else. Oh my gosh.
I talk slow and it comes out wrong.
I was like, wow, Robert. I was like, what's that guy do? So
there's an ass right
so
there.
this year is now considered an off year, correct?
That's how I'm looking.
Because we're not paying for anything,
Yes.
correct? So next year we will be paying for around, we're going to try to get that number around 300.
Yeah, and he's going to come back with a number for the new condition index.
Okay.
Then at that point, we will give him the parameters in which to do the index.
And again, I would really like to not make decisions about who's doing what and just
Yeah.
we'll redo.
But they have to
we'll-
understand what
hold
our
on.
policy is.
We're gonna fix the policy, and then you guys can do the policy.
Follow the policy, not do the policy, follow.
So in
I said,
May,
we're going to
I know,
redo the
yeah.
policy, and then
Then they
they're,
can do the policy, they're gonna follow the policy.
okay.
Yeah.
Jiminy
We're
Christmas.
doing the policy.
so possibly, and we have one meeting in April, just so you know. So if you can get the number to me before April, then I can present it to the board, let them know how much it's going to cost to do this index, and then they can decide whether to enter that agreement or not. And then at that point, once the index is back, then we'll figure out how we're going to do our 8 to 10 year plan from there. Is everybody good on that?
I'm sorry, repeat that again.
So he's going to try to get the number for the cost of the study by the April meeting.
Okay.
And then I'll present it to you all. You can say yes or no, and then hopefully you say yes, and then he'll come back and have the index. These are all the numbers. What do y'all want me to do with this? And then from that point, we can say 300,000, 10 years, you figure it out.
Okay. And we'll devise the policy by that.
Correct.
And I think Joe confirmed, that's where we started when we got into Powis. That's where we wanted to be. But I'm skimming this email that John had sent to Robin, and it sounds like somewhere along the lines, council and staff have too much to say, and we don't want, I personally don't want to be in that boat. I want them to tell us
Okay.
what we should do.
Just so you'll know, if DOT's on a normal cycle, which they haven't been on in a couple of years, that next year's plan would go out, as early as September. They have 5 counties to do, so they're gonna assign each
So you need to get your index back.
person a target, so
Okay.
just looking ahead, picking out the roads that you wanna add, it's, the cycle starts
We
early.
have to
So if you can
We don't
get,
want to pick it up, we want you to pick it up.
Right.
but we need to have your index back. So if you can get the number to me from April, then I'll get the clear on April 10th for you to do it. Hopefully that'll take you a month to do. You can come back in May and say, here it is. How do y'all want me to separate it? And then from there, May, June-ish,
Right.
we could hopefully get some clarity from you, and then you could start the process.
Is that good?
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
if everybody's good, then I will just pass my notes to you to make the motion on the item, on the contract, the resolution.
Let me get clarification. On the curb and gutter, are y'all wanting the drainage or just
Yeah.
the curb?
Everything.
I think
Yeah,
so.
just so y'all know that those drains
Oh, yeah.
sink sometimes.
Yeah,
Right.
everything.
Okay.
Which I don't think we took into consideration when we decided to get into the POW.
Drainage as in,
We did.
Now.
Just,
How
Just
big
the catch
drain
basins.
you're not talking about Cameron pipes
No,
or,
I wouldn't.
Okay, I'm just talking about
The
where the
grades.
grades are.
Yeah.
okay.
so no storm drain cameras.
What?
No which?
No storm drain cameras. We're not gonna camera storm drains.
The way I look at
What'd you
it,
think,
it's
Justin?
just what you can see.
No, I thought you said camera.
Is that what you was
Well,
normally
and
do?
you can go, your outfalls, a lot of them you can see in them, and you can see if you've got a problem. And most of the time, if you've got a problem with a culvert, you're gonna be able to see it up top.
So just, yeah, without you all having to go in with a camera or
Right,
pull a
right.
screen, pull a grate and go down it, yeah, no, just what you could see. And generally speaking, if there's a problem with the drainage, you're probably gonna see it somewhere around or in the pavement itself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass
If
that
you
on.
if you need cameras, though, we,
No, he's right.
which the
When we get-
motion?
When we get
Oh,
to,
my God, I did all.
well, if you wanna use my notes,
Okay.
but just pass it back to me when you're done. But if you wanna wait until we get to item number 2.
Okay.
What's item number 2?
Oh, yeah, this, this resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so are we good with Philip and Mike?
I think so. Do you have any questions
Are
for us?
we fixing to make this?
And just.
And number
just a little
2,
bit.
when we
When
get
we get
there
to
on
number
the
2.
agenda.
We're,
If
yeah.
they can hang out another minute.
Okay,
Well, we have the public hearings next.
they shouldn't
Per
take
order.
long.
Okay.
No, I'm good releasing them if there's nothing they need to do in regards to number 2.
I don't think so.
They already heard
I'll
the
take care
motion
of number
for
2,
that.
and I'll email you, Phil.
Okay,
It's,
Thank
it's
you.
mostly me
Thank
emailing
you.
Lee anyway, so I'll just CC you on that.
all right,
Thank you.
yes.
And everything structurally we managed, right, by including that statement in the manual. We're done.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, we're gonna, you guys are gonna work on getting that in the manual and in the agreement for the provisions.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
I do,
Thank you.
Phil, I do need to get a typical for the manhole covers, because I'm gonna need to email that to Lee to put in the provisions of the contract. So can you get that to me as soon as you can? Okay.
You tell me, that was
The tie-ins.
just on there.
Oh, okay, okay. It's on this one?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it'll get tweaked, but it's on there.
okay.
Alright, so, not taking any motions yet, we'll wait to 2, but we'll go right into the public hearing. So next up on the agenda is consider TUP number 19-12224 for Marvin Movie Night on May 17, 2019 from 6 to 10:30 PM at Marvin Eford Park. And that's Kelly, is she around?
You need to open the.
I need to
public
open
hearing.
No.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is
Anybody
that
here to
what's-
speak?
No.
Okay,
Motion to close?
so moved.
All right, I'll open it up for discussion now. As soon as Kelly gets here, I guess.
I'm great with it.
I don't think
I
that
make a motion to approve TUP number 19-12224 for Marvin Movie Night on May 17, 2019, from 6 to 10:30 PM at Marvin Eford Park, 8909 Newtown Road, Marvin, North Carolina, 28173.
Okay.
Oh, can I amend that motion? Because it says here to, write the rain date and give staff,
Oh,
the
yeah.
village administrator, the ability to amend the scheduled time if necessary, due to rain.
I make a motion as edited by Ms. Scoop.
Okay. So no other discussion, everyone's good with what they read?
Yep.
Yep.
With what Kelly presented? Okay, need a motion to approve? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay,
I make a motion to open.
but next up on the agenda is, to consider TUP number 19-12237 for Marvin's first annual Moonlight Egg Hunt on April 6, 2019 from 6:30 to 9:30 at Marvin Eford Park. Motion to open.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Assume no one has signed up. Need a motion to close.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Discussion and consideration. I just have one quick question. Do we need volunteers for this?
we
How
need.
are you reaching out, or what are we doing?
Derek and I have a Beta Club high school contact, and she's bringing multiple people. Do you know how many?
I don't, but y'all are more than willing to get your kids to come in and help.
Yeah, your kids can come and help.
Okay.
set
Cool.
up.
I'm gonna come hunt.
There is no age restriction, so.
It's
It's
not
not-
age
he asked
Birthday
for
party
something
sleepover that
else.
night, so he's not
Well,
gonna
tell
be
them to
here.
come for a
I
night
think-
owl, it looks great.
I think
No, we're
these
not
were
the night
both
off.
great ideas.
They really were.
We do need somebody to be the Easter bunny.
There you go.
The rosy cheeks for it. Did you say you would?
Put a
Yeah.
set of ears on you.
Rohit, you wanna do it?
Volunteer.
Yeah, I've already been.
Sweet,
Are they
right
suiting
into
you
it.
up? Are they
Sucker.
suiting you up?
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. All right.
All right.
So,
So everybody, any other issues or concerns?
nope, I read it all.
Okay. All right,
Alright.
so we
Want me to
need,
move it? I'll go ahead. Motion to approve TUP 19-12237 to allow the Marvin Moonlight Egg Hunt to be held at Marvin Beaver Park on April 6, 2019, 6:30 to 9 p.m. with the option to
9:30
adjust, sorry,
9:30, yeah.
9:30 p.m.?
No, it says 9.
I said, yeah.
I've got 6:30 to
It's on
9:30.
It
Well,
says,
the event's gonna be from 7 to 9, but the setup's gonna be 6:30 to 9:30. So I was just
Where the heck do you guys see
add on with the
9:30
option
anywhere?
to adjust the actual event time based at the discretion of the village administrator, right? Isn't there in the packet, they said something about needing
9.
to adjust it for daylight or whatever, something like that. Okay.
okay. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up on the, thank you. That was quick.
Good job, Kelly, good job.
Nice job. We have items of discussion, presentation of fiscal year 2020 contracts.
And I don't really need to say anything about that, just our procurement policy says that we have to present the contracts to you all, so. I actually had this in the last meeting and I accidentally removed it, so it's there. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer them, but I'm just going by the policy and presenting that to you all.
I have one question. Do we, because I don't know how this works, why we do this, but is it, once we see it, are we supposed to just assume those contracts get renewed, or?
It doesn't say in the policy, it just says to present them to you all and know that it's part of the budget approval process. So if they'll be in, the monies are gonna be budgeted in there as the terms are, but it's just what the
It's
policy
just a
says.
presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Did that red and light go back?
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't know if you all needed help. I didn't mind throwing it back if you needed it.
Yeah, I think actually somebody came and picked it up. I'm not sure why it took so long, but.
Yeah, just so you all know, Sunbelt will pick up. I know Derek had that accident. You never have to move a piece of equipment. They'll
Okay,
come- They'll come
okay.
get it. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it costs, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other items we need to talk about for that?
Nope.
All right, we move forward, and then now we're at consider items of discussion number 2, consider resolution of intent to assume maintenance of NCDOT roads within Providence Estates, Beechwood, Firethorn Country Club, Heritage Oak Lane, and Woodland Forest Drive, and authorize village administrator to enter agreement with NCDOT.
Did you want to make?
I think you wanted to.
We discussed the heck out of that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to
For a
discuss it,
motion.
let's just,
You
yeah.
just want us to move forward to
Holy
this?
smokes.
Okay. So I'm just going to, just give me 1 second.
Take your time.
Mr. Mayor, I have 2 items in my report that I definitely need to get addressed. It's probably gonna take a good 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay?
I don't know if it's reasonable to table any of these, but I just wanna make sure I leave some time for myself.
Okay. How about we can suspend, well, I don't know if we can suspend the rules, but Nick not being here, but we're just changing an item and moving ETJ in place of the ETJ first. I mean, your report before ETJ.
I've got something on my report and then the village hall. Mary, do you think you're okay with tabling the procurement? Since it's gonna probably take a little bit longer?
I was just gonna ask, I wrote it over.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask that maybe we put on the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, and I've got some comments from the attorney,
Okay.
but with the attorneys, I guess.
You just want to put it on the next meeting then?
So you can share those comments. I'm just worried about time.
It was just more up for discussion this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so unless anyone else has comments,
Which was,
the procurement policy.
I was just saying, I've got some things I need to talk about, so I need to save some time for myself.
And I gotta leave in 15 minutes.
Okay. So we're at a motion.
DJ.
No, we're to motion.
No,
We
we're
haven't
waiting.
even finished
Waiting
yet.
for a motion.
That's right. Okay, we're ready?
yeah, we're not trying to rush you. I know it's a lengthy motion. You ever
Okay.
golf the ocean course
Which one?
at Keela?
Yeah.
Where's the?
Is it worth the money?
No.
It's like $300.
You can get better deals if you stay there. Cost you $500
What's the name
to
of
stay
the
there.
What's the name of the
No,
agreement?
someone give me some
The
coupons.
NCDOT,
Yeah, I think I
For
deleted it.
$300.
The agreement name.
I played it.
resurfacing agreement.
Okay.
My wife's.
Have a year.
So you need to
I
actually
played it.
amend the
I paid for it
resolution
once, but I
to
paid on the
exclude-
company. No, so
those,
I didn't.
those,
think it was worth it.
Laurelwood, or you could just say the neighbor, amend the resolution to exclude X neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then enter the agreement with NCDOT with the removal of all those roads that we listed.
Okay.
You also need to remove from the resolution the Marvin roads, which would be,
That
for
are attached
Firethorn?
to the-
Do you want me to list them out?
where's that exhibit?
I
Just
can
say-
see that. It's gonna be- Oh, that works.
Oh, you've got my exhibit.
It's like a magnifying glass with
Wow.
my eyes.
Look at
Can I
that.
see yours?
Two big glass bottles.
Mary, have you never had like reading glasses?
I think it's time.
Mary, from the
Lord, that's
resolution,
sad. Okay.
remove spyglass,
I'm gonna, I can't see my screen. The other. Okay, spyglass, I'm gonna type.
Baltralusa.
Off the
Yeah,
straw.
Spyglass.
Say it again, Christina.
Balthasar.
Balthasar.
Ultrasol.
Shine,
They're all big
John
country
Cox-
club names.
Seneca?
Yeah, no, Shinnecock,
Firethorn Club Drive, Medina,
Medina.
and then Berwick.
Oh my
Sorry.
God.
Oh, I
Butchered
thought
that.
we're not doing Berwick?
That's a Marvin Share Road, so.
Yeah, that's the worst one, but they didn't accept responsibility of it. Yeah.
Okay, Firethorn Club.
But we had
what was it?
already got it
All
up to
right,
their own
ready?
standards.
Berwick. Hold on. Tell me where you left off.
A Firethorn Club.
Shinnecock,
Got that one?
Berwick.
Yep. Oh,
Mid-
Berwick. That's the one I have.
Did you get Medina?
Oh, that one. That's it.
Medinah.
Funky.
Okay.
Spyglass and Balthasar.
So I have Spyglass, Balthasar, Shinnecock. Is that how you guys say
Yep.
it? Firethorn Country Club Drive.
Yep.
Medina,
Medina.
and then Berwick
Yep.
Court.
So there should be
Hated-
one.
and then-
There should be, Mary. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Good.
Yes. And then we accept Firethorn. All right. You might have to help me with.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to preface this with a little. So in consideration of council's decision to revise Marvin's street resurfacing program, I'll send this to you, Barbie.
Thank you.
To reflect the 8-year road maintenance and adoption plan, take the time to revisit and reconstruct recent policies based on engineering criteria, along with balancing responsible implementation and expenditures. The council proposes the approval of the resolution, right, with amendments, and the agreement with NCDOT with amendments as follows. That we remove the subdivision roads in Providence Estates. We remove Heritage Oak. Remove all roads in Firethorn with the Marvin designation. You want me to list them? That would be Spyglass, Baltusal, Shinnecock, Firethorn Country Club, Medina, and Berwick Court. That we accept
all roads in Firethorn that are designated with NCDOT, or right, marked with NCDOT designation per the staff report, as well as accepting Beechwood and Woodland Forest. Did I miss anything? And actually, I'll just add to that, one more condition.
Yeah, you're good.
That we reach out to residents in
Providence Estates.
Providence Estates
Heritage Oaks.
and Heritage Oaks, and amend, and take steps towards amending their plats so that we can put them on the road schedule.
And do we want to then make an amendment for if the state wants to do any roads,
No, because if they want to do it,
then we would,
we'll just
can.
fix it then.
okay,
We'll just
Consider.
encourage them to do that.
okay.
Well, we can make that part of our policy, whatever edits we do to the actual
Yeah.
policy, a one-liner. If they want to do them for free, do
But
Do you
then
want me to
in
add-
exchange, we would take them over right
You
at
don't want to add
that
it to
point.
this motion? Okay.
them. Not if they're private.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was asking, if you want to add that to
Yeah,
that.
that's up to
or
you.
not.
I'm
I don't
okay
think-
doing it, but it doesn't matter. It's-
I mean,
I'm
it
indifferent.
throws it out there to them because they're
Okay.
already on
Put it in
the
there.
same.
wants it added, and you're okay with it? It's your motion.
And at no cost to the village, correct? Right?
Correct.
Okay, at no cost to the village, should NCDOT feel they
Inclined.
want to, right, resurface other roads at their cost within the village of Marvin, as long as they are public roads, then we're fine, then we will support that decision.
But would we take those roads over
Yes.
then?
Oh,
You wanna add that?
right.
That's what we would do.
And would consider,
exchange.
let's just leave ourselves open. And the Village of Marvin commits to considering incorporation of those newly paved roads into the Marvin Road plan.
Longest motion and DON history.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
I'm a nay.
Your nay.
Yeah, only because I don't like to make decisions on who's getting roads or not.
Okay,
Alright, so the vote was
2-1.
2-1. Okay.
Okay, and.
What I like about the motion, let me just say, is now, there's no guesswork. It's, someone can go back to the motion and say, hey, this is what they decided and why they decided it, so.
I feel, yeah, thank you. I hope so.
So we done with the resolution?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up on the agenda, do we want to move things just to
Yeah.
give
Table yours.
Ms. Christina,
Okay,
we
sure.
table, we have a
Yeah,
motion
table
to
that.
table discussion ETJ
Yeah, make a motion to table ETJ.
to the next meeting, April?
Oh,
I think to the next work session where we can like,
maybe next work session?
yeah,
Okay.
Roll it
to
around.
May work session.
correct.
Okay.
Would that be April work session?
No,
No,
we
you
don't have one
have
in
a work
April.
session in April, it would be
work
May.
session.
So May 31st, I think.
Oh, we don't have a work session in April?
It's
No,
labeled
no.
budget
Because
work
of,
session.
It's
because of
on the
spring
10th.
break,
Um,
because of spring break.
Yeah, but we don't have like a,
So.
second meeting in April.
Are we gonna table procurement policy as well?
Yeah, we're gonna just put it on the consent for next meeting, I think.
make a motion to table procurement policy.
And put on consent?
Yes, please. If it's accepted in a motion, yeah.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then next up, we're gonna have to table legal services based
No,
on
hold on,
time.
wait, we've got
You
general
skipped on
policy
general
for
policy
initiating
for
development.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mary, that one's yours.
I initiated development, discussion, consideration.
Can everyone look at it? Because anything that,
Staff has got just a few minor changes that we wanted to put in there just per our ordinance, and we hadn't had time to do it yet. Have you-
Oh, I actually put it in those, I think, I put those
Okay.
amendments into my motion.
Oh, okay, okay.
If I've got them right. So I don't know, do we do that real, oh, we're just doing agenda right now.
if you and staff have worked it out, I read it,
Uh-huh.
I was good with it. So, you know. if
Did you,
want-
are the changes that you wanted in there?
I've already talked to her about the changes, and if you've got it in your agenda, they're not in here, but they're very
delineated
minor.
them. Yeah, I delineated. So in my motion, I wrote down what you said,
Okay,
and then just wrote
and I can confirm after you say your motion.
Can we just table that and just put it in the consensus for next time and just make sure all the changes are in there?
If it's on consent, it's been like
There's a motion
2 years
first.
out there forever. So, I don't know.
We put it on the April meeting and
Does your
discuss it when
motion
it
include
changes.
the edits?
Yes.
So just make the motion including the edits that.
Don't we have to
staff
wait till we
want.
get to the agenda item?
I thought we were there.
We're there.
Oh, we are?
Number 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
thought
we're
we
trying
were
to
just
move along.
changing.
And I got 5 minutes,
Okay,
so
okay, so alright, so in that case then,
that's why I was trying not to rush through it.
initiating.
And that's why I suggested tabling it.
Motion to approve the general policy for initiating development with the following amendments. Amend the policy number to P2019-03-01. Amend the policy adoption date to March 28th, 2019. Amend the policy title by removing the term general. Amend paragraph A to remove the first 2 sentences. And bring
Shit, where's
paragraph B, I think it is, shoot, I have it with me, in accordance with the same submittal requirements delineated in zoning ordinance 151.251.
Wait, I'm in the wrong spot. I'm sorry. That's the wrong thing. This is initiating development, right? I'm at the wrong one.
Can you just say N section C as well?
And section C, yeah.
The whole idea
What
of
page
that
is
is
it?
to-
I said, yeah, didn't I?
Well, no,
No,
E.
no, what page is it in here?
It is both?
Okay.
Okay, got it, all right, I remember. So amend that to bring sections B and C.
Okay. All right. Oh, well, there's, hang on.
Kim, where'd you find it?
It's, if you,
Is this where you're at? Right here?
yeah, it's, Robert, it
Page
looks
1
like
at the very
this.
end in your packet.
You said remove the last page.
It actually, you tabled it like, the last time it was on here, you tabled it for staff to bring back.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry, Mary, we tell to say those changes one more time. I'm
Sure.
sorry, I was totally in the wrong spot. That was
No
my
problem.
fault.
So,
I was like, why
I'll
can't I
forget
find
the little
anything?
stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was amend the policy, amend paragraph A
Yep.
to remove the first 2 sentences,
Okay,
which makes sense.
okay, yeah, okay.
And-
Yeah, okay,
And then bring paragraphs B and C
yep,
into accord with the same submittal requirements,
that we have.
yes, of
Okay.
zoning ordinance 151-251.
Okay,
And then remove the word encourage from 2 and 3. Was the
Yeah.
only
And
thing.
we're-
Oh,
which one?
encourage.
The word encourage.
The word encourage.
Oh, yes, right.
two,
I forgot
2
that.
and 3?
Yeah,
Okay, and was that it?
and remove all occurrences, the word encourage, right?
That's all we had from staff standpoint.
Okay.
We will change some of this verbiage in the back to make sure it reflects the
Yeah.
same terminology as the ordinance.
In the ordinances, okay,
Okay,
okay.
so motion's on the table. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have,
Legal services and contract, policies and expenditures.
Let's just take that out for now.
Table it or
Well,
take it
let
out?
me ask you, I just have a question. Maybe we can leave it. When's the next meeting?
April 10th.
April
10th. It's in like 2 weeks.
Do you want to leave it then? Yeah, let's just
Okay.
leave it. I was gonna ask about like other contracts that we've got going, but we'll wait.
do we need
till
a
the
motion to
settlement
do
is
that?
done.
Yeah, I make a motion to
Yeah.
table legal services, contracts, policies, and expenditures until the April meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Treasurer report, everybody good with that?
It's just for
Sorry.
It's
information.
just information.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
I'm good with it.
Okay, all right, so we're good there.
Okay, we tabled the meeting
We had
minutes.
attorney resignation to discuss, so it's gonna have to be moved to April 10th, I assume.
Oh,
Y'all want,
Can we-
staff
Real
to
quick,
start on
can
that?
we need to advertise?
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
We can
direct,
start on the RFP.
direct staff to open
Okay.
that discussion. Is that good?
You probably have some old
Yeah, I'm sure I do.
applications, but I think they'd be 2 years old by now.
But,
So just make a motion to direct the administrator, right?
yeah,
Start the
To
process.
advertise and draft a scope of services. What do they call it? A request for qualifications, right?
yeah, it's not an RFP.
RFQ.
It's not an RFP, because we're
It's an
not,
RFQ.
the appropriate document to elicit bids
There we go.
There you go.
for legal services.
Perfect. Okay.
And the last time we actually performed interviews.
Oh, okay. Y'all want to do interviews this time?
I want you
Yeah.
guys. I want you to do the interviews. Yeah, I don't.
What happened last time, I think, is it got narrowed down to a couple, and then we were encouraged to meet the attorneys.
Oh, give me one of those, I'm sorry.
What's this?
I want to make sure that we have someone that's got some like real estate and land and.
So Councilman
Alright,
Epps, did
so
I
there's a-
understand you to say that you wanted council to do the interviews? Is that what I heard?
Oh,
No,
Okay.
I want to know if the rest of council wants to be involved in that.
Well, see, we're gonna start with the initiation,
am I
right?
pulling one out?
And then when she gets them, can I amend that to say, and distribute bids when they're available, or distribute,
Well, I figure we'll talk about it, right?
right? Ah, that's what I'm thinking.
We'll go ahead and get it out and then they'll
Yeah,
probably let us.
Just get the process
Yeah.
going, is I think
Okay.
what we're doing. So we have a motion on the table,
Yeah.
further discussion, all's in favor?
Aye.
I-
Motion passes. Next up, we have administrator's report with minutes to spare.
Okay, just a couple of things, I'll try to be real quick. The ICD ordinance that was discussed at the last meeting, we did find that it was removed from the ordinance way back in the day and was just never uncodified, so we have submitted that to the American Legal. They are taking it out, so just so y'all know, the stuff that was mentioned in the meeting was in fact accurate, as it was removed. We
Okay.
did find that, it just wasn't done.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have a couple of other things, but that's not really important. I can talk to you about at the next meeting. But roundabout maintenance, I do want to mention to y'all that I had tried to get ahead of the curve for the maintenance down here before it starts coming into grass season. They are only expected to mow 6 to 7 times per year. So before we have issues, I'm just going to go ahead and let y'all know
Mow the weeds?
How much?
6 to 7 times a year. That this is something that we may want to consider to put in some of our funds because
Yeah,
I'm
we're
sure
gonna
that's
have
not
to
going to be acceptable.
mow. It's gonna look like it looks like crap right now.
We won't comply with our own code if we.
Right.
don't.
I mean, it looks terrible right now.
And I think we all talked about, somebody proposed doing some natural landscaping that would.
PRG is working on it. They're trying to get some direction from DOT, what's allowed in the medians and what's allowed in the roundabouts.
And if y'all have a couple minutes after this, I don't know if you do, but I can go over some things with you that we've talked about from a CIP standpoint
Okay.
that may address some of that. I don't know if you have time, but,
Yeah, if you guys are okay with us looking around. Yeah.
okay. Are y'all good on me entertaining, maybe getting some bids or seeing what it will cost Derek to come out and mow?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, because it's gonna look like
end up that way
crap if we
anyway, so-
don't.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, so the last, any other questions for me that's dire straight that y'all need to get addressed from?
Maybe just explore the idea of throwing down, like, say, a Bermuda seed or something.
Okay.
In the meantime, so that we can get rid of, maybe we won't have to mow, but it'll look neater.
Okay.
Just a thought.
And my only thought is, you mentioned Derek doing it, which is fine, we have the mower and stuff. Those are kind of dangerous areas.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to pay a subcontractor with his own insurance.
Don't we
There's
have-
no
don't we have
water going
somebody
there
that-
now, right?
No,
it's
don't we
just-
have
could-
somebody that
we could
mows our
probably
this yard
spray
here?
it.
Derek doesn't.
Yeah, someone mows this.
It's
right?
lawing.
Again, you're mowing weeds, so we could also spray it and just
That's what I was
kill everything
thinking.
in there,
Spray it and
where
just
you're
kill it.
limiting
'Cause
the number of times they have to cut dead weed.
We'll look at options and then we'll come
Maybe
back.
I could-
Yeah.
But
Because there's no
I'm
way.
inclined not to put a staff member in the middle of the roundabout.
No, that's
Okay.
not.
So the last couple.
No
and-
horse.
I gotta go.
Not yet.
Can I be excused? Can I make a motion to excuse myself? I've got to go.
And I've already, just,
I'll look at it.
this agreement.
Are we done?
No, I've got to go though. I'm sorry.
I know the planning report's
Motion to
next.
excuse
Yeah.
Kim Vandenberg from the meeting.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thanks. Sorry.
I do have one quick announcement on Village Hall, just if y'all will allow me to skip around real quick.
Sure.
I passed out the agreement for the Urban Architect Group. Per our current financial policy, I cannot enter any agreements with an architect that exceeds $5,000. So I wanted y'all to see this before I entered this agreement. This is an amendment, as we initially discussed 2 months ago, to take the changes that I passed around from these exhibits and to do the contract administration, to do the pre-bid work that they've done, and all that other relevant stuff that we had discussed back in the meeting. I realize you're just getting this now, so I don't know if you
Well, we
want to.
talked about this, isn't this?
Yeah,
something we
you've already
talked
talked about it.
Okay.
You've already agreed to the intent and just didn't have the contract in my hand at the time.
Okay.
Just remind me what I remember the first 4 items.
First
One
four.
through
1,
four.
2, 3, 4. Okay, contract with the 6,000.
Yeah, that's the one I'm not familiar with.
That's the one where they basically will hold our hand through the construction process. If there's questions asked, where after the construction starts, they actually come out twice a month and inspect to make sure everything is going as intended. This was in the original contract as an earmark. We just haven't expended any money into it, so it's just kind of in place there. So it was initially intended for it to be in there. It just hasn't. We haven't used it yet because we haven't needed to.
And then are they gonna come for the reading of the bid too?
They are
But that's paid for in item 2, bidding package.
correct. The bid opening, yes.
Yeah. The bid openings is part of number 2. bidding
Correct.
package.
Mhm.
So here's my thoughts on number 5. And I think I mentioned this before. Back when I did the bathrooms
Mhm.
at the park, the architect sent some guy out, but it coincided with when he asked me to call him when the county was coming out.
Mhm.
So I had somebody looking at what was already being looked at.
Well, one of the things they will also do is they actually handle all the payments for us as far as the contractor submits the payment request to the architect, and they'll go through and make sure all that stuff is checked off and to tell us that it's okay to pay. If you look at the second page, it
That's
actually.
part of that 6,000?
Mhm.
Okay, so
General contractor do that too, Bill?
well, no, the general contractor is the one the town's paying, so you don't want him checking off his own
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, no, somebody. Yeah.
Somebody needs to.
I see.
So when you say that, it makes more sense.
Mhm.
Just coming out to look at the footings, when the county's looking at the footings.
Yeah, there's more to it. On page 2, on the scope of amendment, on the construction administration phase, it kind of highlights those portions of what's in that.
Do you need a decision on this today?
We have already done the pre-bid stuff, and I have a check that I need to issue out to them for these drawings. So at least, I mean, if you want to pull the contract administration part of it, if you're having questions on that, but at least the alternate elevations, the bidding package.
I'm good with 1 through 4. Do you guys want to talk about number 5? And I'm not against number 5. I just don't know that we talked about it thoroughly.
I'm okay if you want to talk about it for a little bit and make
Joe,
sure.
have you looked
you're
at it?
comfortable. I haven't.
And I'm just now giving you this. I'm sorry, it's
That's okay.
so
And
busy.
And for the most part, all of the information, or all of the points that I would think of are the ones you brought up before. So it's probably best for you.
So in my world, I'll give you guys an example. Like, for instance, I'm doing a remodel, and the people got a loan for it. It's a sizable remodel. The bank, I make a draw request to the actual bank that the homeowner signs off on. And then the bank sends an appraiser out to verify that it's done and done properly before that check is cut. Is that what they're proposing to do?
Correct.
$6,000?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that I have a problem with it. Joe?
It's would be standard too, especially if that's what they're.
And y'all have discussed this.
And this is in 5, right? We're looking-
Number 5, yeah. 1 through 4, I know we talked about, and I know I'm good with. It's 5 that I didn't know.
5 y'all did discuss in the previous contract, because it is part of the previous contract, so it's already in there. It just wasn't itemized out specifically as I would have liked it to be. So that's why we've done it this way.
But the max we can pay is 6,000, is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
That's what he's estimating it to be, and
Okay.
You are okay with it?
We didn't put a cap on it.
he's got 6,000 plus any reimbursables. So the cap
Right.
is 6,000, and if he's got to make copies of something,
Right.
he's going to charge us for that.
FedEx.
See, if we don't do it, the risk is, now, the village has access to me, but, I'm not perfect. So, in the absence, if I got hit by a bus, then someone from staff would have to go look at it and know what they're looking
Yeah.
at before they pay the guy. So I think it's well spent money. I wish it was cheaper, to be honest, but I wish that of everything.
And Rohit went to go grab my folder because I had some notes from the previous contract where y'all had discussed this.
So he's gonna also look at the shop
It's
drawings.
sitting on my desk. Yeah, it's on the front of the desk.
I don't need it. So this is fine.
Okay.
So he's gonna look, they are gonna look at the shop drawings. They'll handle any field-related questions directly from the contractor.
Mhm.
Will they keep us in the loop? I mean,
I would assume they would, and I can add that into,
I would wanna know what kind of questions is being asked. Not personally, but as a council. Site visits, architect will come to sites during 6 months. 2 site visits for an estimated construction.
of 6 months, and I did ask him about this because I said the construction is gonna be more than 6 months.
Is that 2 site visits per month? The sentence doesn't finish.
It is 2 sites per,
It just
2
says,
months.
includes 2 site visits for an estimated construction duration of 6 months.
I can change that.
Yeah, like,
I tried to get him to amend the 6 months to at least 8 months, because I felt like we were gonna be under construction for longer than that, and he said that he would have to increase the fee for that, so.
oh,
I think it's okay as long as he's got, I saw he had his hourly fee.
so is it 2
Listed on the
site
back.
visits a month?
Mhm.
It is, okay, that's what they're amending,
Mhm.
okay.
Well, that was what was in the original too.
Okay.
No, it just doesn't say it
You're
here.
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna amend that part where it specifies per
Yeah, it
month.
was a good catch.
Certificates of payments and substantial completion, noted on the statute, blah, blah, blah. So I'm okay with 5 if you guys are.
Yep. I
Are
defer
you
to
comfortable
you.
with the pricing?
Mhm, yeah.
Okay. So do you need a motion?
I do, yes.
Okay.
You've been doing good, Mary, you go ahead.
I don't know, my head is pounding. Okay, don't worry about it. Motion to approve the, agreement and contract for services with Urban Architectural Group for the project scope and the, scope of services provided by the administrator. Is that good enough?
Mhm.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion.
I just want to remind you all that we do have the bid opening Monday. If you're interested in coming, we do have our architect that's there that's going to handle that process for us.
Okay.
You should have received a blue sheet that looks like this, or a white sheet with a blue line.
Yeah, here.
This is what staff has prepared that we will present to you all once we, it's going to be similar to this, but we're going to have all the bids in there.
Bigger.
Yes. But it'll have all the base bids, the alternates, so y'all can look at the price and figure out, which option you want to go with. I did pass around the 2 detail sheets.
Yeah, those look nice.
I only got one.
So what happens?
Can I clarify something?
You got 1 and 12.
The motion that you all just made, you don't have a quorum to make that motion because you've already excused, Councilwoman Vandenberg. You only have 2.
No, the mayor counts as quorum.
Well, I mean, but
But when we excuse
when
her,
you're-
isn't she in the
no,
affirmative?
you excuse, no, you have excused her. If you didn't excuse her, then she would be an affirmative. But you don't have, you have a quorum in order to have the meeting, but there's not a quorum here for the vote.
Can we dial her in?
No, well,
No,
you
I
only
don't-
need quorum, you only need quorum in the meeting in order to vote. And so there's a quorum, like the quorum of the council is here with 3, and so we can vote. Where, do you want me to, I can pull up do you want me to pull up the chart? Just so you want to look, if you want to.
I've got it right here.
Okay.
Majority of the actual membership plus the mayor excluding any vacant seats constitute a quorum. So we do have the majority of the council here.
Yeah.
But there's a difference in the voting part. You have a quorum to hold the meeting. But the question I have is, do you have a quorum to make that motion pass?
Yes, but I understand what you're saying. If you, so even though we've excused her from, and then actually in Councilwoman Vandenberg's case, we've excused her both from voting and we've excused her from the meeting. And in this case, what remains though is 3, which is still a quorum of the council, so we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm of that same opinion. I mean, if we've done anything wrong, we can go back and reconcile it. But
Yeah.
All right, so where are we at?
what was it? Somebody had a question about this?
Oh, you were saying that you wanted us to, oh, I don't know, did you want to, oh, you were just about to tell us about this.
Oh, I didn't see, I had a question because I only saw one drawing.
Oh, there's another one floating
I
around.
had pulled it out, so there was a big pile.
Okay.
Oh, there's 2?
Which one do you
There's
have?
2.
Oh,
Here's another one. Do you have the White House or the Stone?
I have the White House.
You have the white one, they don't have the stone.
I don't have the stone either.
You don't either?
Well, maybe I printed the same one twice.
Maybe. We believe you, there's stone on it, right? That's
Yeah,
the
it's
difference.
basically the same thing, but
Oh, here it
stone
is.
all
I'm
the-
sorry.
all the way up.
I think I did print the same one twice, I only have one of those.
Okay, sorry. We'll pass it around.
So in the event y'all choose one of these, which goes back to that agreement, there will be some changes to other detail sheets that are needed, which is one of those line items that were in that contract.
So I do have one question.
Mhm.
And we've already made the motion, I'm not going backwards, but if the numbers, let's say we get 20 bidders, which would be awesome,
Mhm.
but they're all way too high and we decide not to accept any of them,
Mhm.
how does that affect this contract? Will it just roll over to the next?
Yes, yeah, and I can make some
Yeah.
language in there that if we don't use it, we don't, if we go to reject all bids and we don't need the contract administration, we wouldn't have it.
We probably
Well,
will
should we
engage in
name
it
it?
because he's supposed to help us with the bid,
That's true.
looking at the bid, so we're gonna use a little of this contract anyways. Cause you
I
said
think
he
you're
was gonna
talking-
be involved in the
You're,
bid.
Robert, you're talking about 3, 4, and 5 primarily of this.
Correct.
Yes, and I'll put some language in there. We wouldn't naturally have it anyways because,
In other words, we were not gonna pay, if we, you know, ideally, because if we reject these, if they're all too high, and we put it out again immediately, then we would need 5, but I'm just, in terms of language, you know, something along the lines of should we choose to rebid?
Well, should I amend the motion? I can do that. I can amend the motion just to say, with the provision that the scope be altered if we
in the
don't
event
go
we
with
reject.
Right?
That's fine.
I can do
Sure.
that. Okay, so I'm making a motion to amend that, to amend my past motion as I read. Is that okay? Do you want me to say it again?
Say it for Barbie.
3, 4,
Okay.
and 5 is what
Okay, so I make a motion to amend my previous motion or rescind. What do you want me to do? Amend? Okay.
Either.
Okay, so amend my previous motion to add a provision which states, to add the provision that we remove 3, 4, and 5 should the village decide not to accept any of the bids that are submitted.
from the compensation schedule.
From where?
From the compensation schedule.
Oh, from the compensation schedule.
Okay.
Right.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And part of the reason that I mentioned that, Christina, is I had one person call me and say, did you know the village is requiring 3 years' worth of financial statements just to bid on this? And I said, no, I haven't really read all the documentation.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
So that one guy who, you know, probably would have been a reasonable bid isn't gonna bid. So what's the deal with the 3 years?
That is so we can assure that they have financial solvency. So we're not getting into a situation where someone goes bankrupt and then we are stuck suing them to finish the project.
Where did it come from? Whose idea was it?
That's actually something that's in pretty much standard project manuals, and I actually ran into the same issue when I was in Albemarle. We hired somebody, multi-million-dollar project, they went bankrupt. Project took at least 1.5 years to finish. We had to sue them. So I've been there, done that, so I just wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence from the front end to make sure we're looking at that.
If the bids come back horrible, just know that may have scared some people away. We may have to revisit it. Keep in mind, like my license, it's based on 2 things. One, passing a test, and the other is financial solvency. Is, you know, having some liquidity. Or you have 2 choices with a North Carolina license. You either have money in the bank, or you have a high net worth.
Collateral?
So one of the 2. So the state already has some protection there.
Okay.
So that's only if the bids come back crazy. We may want to relook at that, because that guy's like, there's so much work out there, why would I enter into an agreement like
Yeah.
that?
And we can take that.
There's a guy in there.
We can-
He called here apparently, you may have talked to him. And then he called me, he's like, did you know? I don't know. It's not
Yeah,
like-
and we have a copy of, staff spent a lot of time, and it was a combination of myself, Rohit, Chris, Barbie. We all had kind of segmented. This is our project manual, so it took a lot of time for us
That's
to
a
come up
big
with all this
project.
stuff. But it's just kind of a CYA for us. in the long term. So that's,
Oh, and I don't disagree with it at all. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
this one particular guy was like, oof, 3 years worth of financial statements, really? To bid on
So like
something?
and it's interesting because it's one thing to have, I guess, what is it, solvency? Or to protect against solvency, but you have to actually pull the statements and provide them? That's
no,
what
no,
you
no.
do?
It's just your audited statements, like your P&L. So it's not, you don't have to provide us with all your bank statements for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
It's
all
just-
you're doing is providing that,
He may have misunderstood.
Yeah, I was gonna
He was
say.
all freaked out. I was like, nah,
Well, when
it
you
is what it
first
is.
said it, that's what I heard about too. I'm like, well, that's a lot.
It is
And
what
it
is.
says it in our, just trying to-
Yeah, maybe we need to, I don't know.
Hopefully the
It,
bids come
um,
back good and it's a non-issue.
you remember where that was? It was in the very beginning.
Oh, I don't need to see it. I didn't need to see it before. I don't need to see it now. I'm just mentioning it.
Okay.
I barely
I
know.
trust you guys put together a good package and it's none of mine.
Yeah, I was just trying to see how we worded it because we actually spent a good amount of time wording that to make sure it wasn't
So he
misleading.
must have read that packet to
Yeah.
know it. I thought he just called and you guys told him. I don't know what the,
No, it's in here somewhere.
okay.
Wow.
At least you read the packet.
Yeah.
So, we have the bid opening Monday, so hopefully we'll know more information on Monday, and then we'll kind of go from there. Our intent is to fill out that index form that y'all just got, and y'all can make a decision at the April 10th meeting of how to move
So
forward.
you guys are filling this in?
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm tired out. Okay.
Yeah, what the process will look like after we get the bids is we'll open them right here at this table with the architect here holding their hand, and we will have to go through and make sure they filled out all the hub requirement forms like they were supposed to, make sure they submitted their bid bonds like they were supposed to, the calculations are
what
right.
time is that on Monday?
12.
Or 12?
12.
And then we'll fill out the sheet, and then we'll basically compare apples to apples once we figure out everybody's
But
submitted everything.
You don't need us to be here, do you?
No,
So once you're done with that, then it'll go to the meeting?
correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I
you open
thought,
them all up and then go individually into each one, or you open them up and
Open each one of them up at that time.
go through them all the way through?
It sounds like you're doing a checklist.
Doing the checklist
Open it up,
and you
just
check
sort
it
of
all the way through, the
make piles.
tabulation.
Each one before you
On
go on
each
to
one
the next
before you
one?
open the next one.
Okay.
there's all kinds of like forms that they have to fill out with the hub policy, and
I just wanted to put it on my schedule, because how long would that take, you know? That's on the first, right?
probably take about an hour, depending on how many we get.
At noon?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
My brother does commercial glazing in California. He says that every single job they do in California, apparently it's that, this process
Yeah,
is like for everything out
Yeah,
there.
it is.
He says it's complicated.
it doesn't surprise
But
me.
guys that do it all the time, it's just
Probably copy it over and over maybe.
It's just not my world. Mine's a lot simpler.
Yeah, you don't have to go through all this stuff. It is very complicated, and I don't think contractors like to go through this process because of everything. But
I'm glad you all are handling it.
we already have, we've got our first addenda out, which basically means whenever we have contractors submit questions to us, we have to put back an addenda to all the contractors that were here.
That's
So
right, I remember that now, that's right, I forgot.
we've had our first one.
'Cause it's, yeah, it's almost like, ex parte communication, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta
It's
get
so
going soon.
complicated.
Can we?
That's all that
Are
I
we done?
have.
Is there anything else
That's
we're
it.
doing?
There's-
That's
Did
it?
you want to do a planning report, Ray?
Yes. I'll
Joe,
jump
I'm
through
sorry.
it.
No, that's fine, that's fine. We skipped over, oh, no, we didn't. Administrative
skip
report,
over.
we skipped over to Village Hall, but then now back on planning report.
Okay, great. I'll fly through it so I don't take up too much time. So since the last Barcroft update, we actually met with Barcroft developers, us, our burst engineer on site, and gave them an approved land development permit. So they should be starting. We addressed a few minor issues that wouldn't affect the whole development as a whole. So they are.
Which one is Barcroft?
Barcroft is on Bonds Grove Church, across from Beechwood, across
I
from
mixed
Bonds
the
Grove.
two
I
up.
know.
Yeah. okay.
Yeah,
We got two
people,
Bs at the same time.
people are doing that all the time,
Okay,
but
thank you.
it's not Broadmoor. So that's about it. They have their land development permit, so they're ready to start.
Yay.
Yeah, we're excited about it too. So next item is I attended the North Carolina, the NC 16 Providence Road widening, and they have made some changes since the last time. they presented the idea. I think the most significant one was I was ready to go blast them about Newtown Road, but they've already changed the plan.
Oh.
The Newtown Road is allowed straights, and I could pass this around.
Is allowed what?
Straights through. They're still not allowing left turns anywhere onto Providence Road. As
superhighway presentation.
Yeah.
every turn will be a Michigan left, which is you have to make a right turn and then make a U-turn at certain designated points, but they'll all have traffic lights. And I stayed for the public portion too, and they were very expertly swatting away all those comments from people that were saying, this is ridiculous, you know, we hate this. You know, their return comments were, this is safer. It's safer and it will be quicker, even though it doesn't seem like it will be, because each traffic light will have less phases because they're in a left turn system.
Okay. Anything you have on that that you can send on, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, in this section, I'm supposed to say that the...
I know rush now, but...
No, the website that they want us to go to is publicinput.com/NC-16-Providence. I'll say that again.
Okay.
publicinput.com/NC-16-Providence.
Dash. Okay.
Yeah. So one more time. publicinput.com/NC-16-Providence.
Oh, slash, then dash.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Good.
Yeah. All right.
And contact information for NCDOT is Travis Preslar at tjpreslar@ncdot.gov. That's tjpreslar@ncdot.gov.
Could you send maybe that to Barbie so she can put it on our website? And
Sure.
just we'll-
There's an amazing video on that website as well that educates the public about how this will look and how to use it. So that is something I would recommend you all watch and refer to anyone who wants to know.
So do you have thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts are, you know, kind of restricted around the fact that NCDOT is not going to cancel this project for any reason. But, I mean, coming from the background of a transportation engineer, I'm very thrilled about how they have reduced conflicts. Left turns are always dangerous. And I actually live, you know, very close to Marvin and Johnston Road, where they, while I lived there, they closed off the straight movement on Marvin Road, and people will get used to it eventually. I think that's the takeaway from this, that people are mad now, but people will get used to it eventually, and they do feel that, you know, there are a lot of minor left turns off of Providence Road, and they're very dangerous. So especially because this Providence Road will be widened to 4 lanes from 2 in some sections, it's safer and better in the end.
Okay.
People have gotten used to the roundabouts. In my opinion, they're a great success.
Mhm.
I can drive down Marvin Elementary School Road, Marvin School Road, with confidence, knowing I won't be stuck there for 15 minutes like it used to be.
The secret I've learned is I get on, believe it or not, just to go to the high school, I get on Waze. Because Waze will tell me if there's an officer right there before I make the drive, and then realize I can't turn around. I'm 30 cars back.
Yep.
And I'm stuck. So Waze typically lets you know. That's probably the best way, other than getting a report from the officers when they're going to be there, because it's voluntary. Anything else?
They would like to rebrand the name of the project as Reduced Conflict Corridor. As opposed to
What's it called now?
Oh my gosh,
Super
that's
Street.
funny.
Super Street to reduce.
To reduce conflict corridor.
conflict
Yes.
corridor.
And they would like public
Very
officials to
smart.
propagate that name, because there's been
Are
a
you
lot
serious?
of
Like they're
negative.
actually serious?
Yes, there's been a lot of negative connotation with the term Super Street.
What's interesting
Put
is
it
the
on
word
a bottle.
conflict,
It's a water.
because we know it from sitting in these meetings that like a roundabout, instead of having 16 points of conflict, you have whatever it is for.
Yeah.
So we know what that means, but just the word conflict, I'm surprised they don't take that out.
Well,
Yeah,
reduce
true.
conflict.
Well, reduce conflict.
I don't know, but it should be more like reduced exchange.
Yeah.
corridor. Because the word conflict has negative connotations.
Yes.
And these yourself, they just call it the faster intersection.
Yeah, .com.
Progress,
I have no problem.
just to
Make sure
call
y'all
it
remember that
progress.
terminology.
Oh, yeah.
I've already forgot it.
Okay.
Reduced conflict corridor.
Do you have any other ones? Any other updates?
So is this
yeah.
final design, is this the one that's
This is
considered Michigan?
15%
Or
design.
not Michigan?
What do you mean?
There were two super streets that came and presented to us, Michigan style and regular.
Oh, I think they're going with Michigan style.
So
Yeah.
that is Michigan style.
Yes.
And this is
um,
Michigan style?
Yeah, and the Michigan about it is that you take a right turn and then later you take a U-turn.
Wait a minute, that's not this then. This is the U-turn. Just
Yeah. So let me.
You go beyond the intersection and then make the
Okay.
U-turn.
Let me grab this. Okay. So this is Newtown Road.
Right.
And so we're looking at it like this.
Right.
Okay. So if I want to go left onto Providence, you would have to make a right turn onto Providence, and then at the
Oh, I
next
see.
bulb out, you make a U-turn on Providence, so
Yeah.
that you end up going the way you want.
And there's enough stackability there that it's gonna work?
Oh yeah, there's a pretty long.
Step.
There's a long tapered lane, and
It,
there's
it
a,
does become an issue when you're trying to just go straight on Newtown Road, so there's no question, people now start getting in the right lane, they just gotta understand it. How they're gonna have to negotiate that left-hand turn, but
Right.
there's so many people going left that Newtown gets backed up
yeah.
so far that
And then
it
there's a
makes
traffic
sense.
light here too, at the U-turn location. So if this line of people making that U-turn gets too long, then that light will turn.
So that's, that is the,
Michigan.
Marvin Gardens corner.
It is.
Yeah.
That's Marvin Gardens right there,
Look, can I see that again?
On the
How
south.
is that, how are they gonna?
east side.
So you go beyond that light, or you go right at that light, you can make a left, or you can U-turn. Is that correct?
Yes, and I did
The
tell them.
entrance
Okay,
is gonna
see
come
here.
up there.
So I took this is a picture of an example of a bulb out that has the left turn as well as the U-turn.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
This is further down the road. This is not in Marvin, but this is. In
But that's
Waxhaw.
what it's gonna look like.
But yes, this is what it's going to look like, and I alerted them to coordinate with the Marvin Gardens developers
Oh,
so
good
that
for you.
they
And-
they put this in the.
So
correct
why is there a
location.
bulb on the left side? What's the reason?
That's
They're
the
doing the same
U-turn
thing
for
the other
those
way.
the people down here. So they'll come and make this left turn or U-turn.
Yeah.
Oh, the right turn
Yeah.
always. Okay.
Um,
Oh, that's the people coming out of Weddington Chase that want to go south.
right, right.
That's what they're gonna do. Okay, okay.
And this is not what it looks like on.
No,
the
I know.
Somewhere
It's
else.
just somewhere
Somewhere
else.
else.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's gonna
Okay.
essentially
This
look
is
like
what
that.
an example of
at the
what it would look
intersection.
like.
Yeah.
My eyesight is
At.
really going bad.
Yeah, well, at least you're not looking at the other thing that I printed out, which is, yeah, at least you're not looking at this.
Oh, Lord.
This is the whole street,
The whole street,
the whole
yeah.
section plan. But
Did they give this to you or you went and you
this
took
is
the
from their
photo?
website. I took that picture like with
Okay.
my phone at the event, and
Oh,
this
okay.
is from their
Wh-
website.
Which
so-
event was this?
No, this is the NC-16 widening public event.
Oh, yeah,
this is
yeah.
at Weddington Church.
With reduced conflict.
That's
Yeah.
great. Good job.
Did you have
I'm
anything else
terrible.
for us?
And it, well, we have a meeting tonight, you and I are gonna go
Yes,
to,
the
which is
next,
down in
that's
Waxhaw.
also in my planning report. We also have a critical intersections meeting that we're going to, which is different from this, but 4 intersections on that critical intersection list are in Marvin, so.
And some connect with the widening, isn't it?
Yes, one of them is on Providence Road, Bondsgrove
Okay,
Church.
Bondsgrove, right.
And you said did you get an inquiry? Someone was looking for a commercial development or something?
Yes, that's the last thing I want to talk about, so let me just list off
Okay,
the
sorry.
4 intersections
Get
for
into that.
the record, and then that's the least interesting thing. So 4 intersections that Union County defined as critical intersections are in Marvin. They are Bondsgrove Church and Providence Road, Marvin and Newtown Road, Marvin and Joe Kerr Road, and Waxhaw Marvin and Bondsgrove Church. So Marvin and Joe Kerr and Waxhaw Marvin and Bondsgrove Church are newly listed as 2019 new recommended critical intersections. So So Marvin and Joe Carr because of that curve and the speeding around it, and
Wow.
Waxhaw Marvin and
That's good.
Bonds Grove because of also the weird alignment that's there.
That's great.
So we want to go see what they think about it and tell them what we think about
And
it.
there are drawings already on the Bonds Grove. I think Kimley Horn had done some drawings.
Yeah, the
for-
Bonds Grove and Providence Road, there are some realignments.
Well, actually, it was Bonds Grove and Waxhaw.
Waxhaw Marvin?
Yeah.
Okay, I
I
wasn't able to
saw
find
drawings before,
As part of
this
the
was
Waxhaw
years ago,
corridor,
that
maybe?
we have to have somewhere. That they said any of those kind of drawings would be helpful for
Yeah.
them.
I'd love to see that because I looked for it and I wasn't able to find it. That was an
Really?
action item from the
Ask,
last meeting.
did you call Kimley Horn? They have probably.
No,
have
I
something.
I didn't know who to contact.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
who,
looked
that's
online.
who, that's who
Wasn't able to
presented
find
it to us way back when that was one of the critical intersections we were looking at, so.
Is that, I know the one that we drew, but is that part of the Waxhaw corridor revamp? Do you know?
It's not because Waxhaw Corridor ends right below that
Bonds Grove,
intersection.
yeah, right before
Yeah.
Bonds Grove.
Okay. Yeah, we had an old drawing done by Kimley Horn for that intersection. I don't know.
Okay.
It's still online. I probably have it if you can't find it.
I'd love to see that. if
Okay,
you could
I'm making
show it.
myself a note. Okay, and then.
So yeah, so the last thing I have on my planner update is probably the most interesting thing is that the owner of the 2 lots at the corner of Bonds Grove Church and Providence Road has approached staff expressing interest in developing those as commercial. Our draft land use plan explicitly lists those 2 lots as being future rezoned to commercial corridor conditional district. So
Bonds Grove Church and where?
I'll show you the map. It's right over
Such a
there.
headache. For some reason, I'm having trouble.
You know, I didn't even realize that was in Marvin.
Way out there. I did because Waxhaw came to us and wanted us to participate in a light or some sort of exchange
in
there
Providence,
at
is
some point, the councilman.
Okay, so this is a map of our future land use, and the 2 lots in question are these 2 lots at the northwest corner of Bonds Grove Church and Providence Road.
Okay, that's what.
And these are listed as future commercial corridor.
And there's supposed to be a light there eventually, right?
There is, and it's part of the widening plan that was with NCDOT.
And that road continues, it looks like.
Not Bonds Grove Church. That's a subdivision, and that's not
Okay.
continuous.
Okay, that's not a
This is a T junction here.
Nice map.
This is from the land use plan, the draft.
I
land
know,
use
that's why
plan.
I'm saying, I'm just being smart.
Okay. So since they expressed interest and, well, they called about lots that we are considering rezoning to commercial, we invited them for a initial staff meeting and they did come.
Oh, cool.
So they showed us their plans, which I have.
Oh.
I'll show you. They have a few alternatives and we mentioned, we gave them the ordinances that we have on commercial corridor district, which is 150, 180, 150, 85 or something like that, which outlines the exact,
Oh, 085, you were talking
Yeah.
about, yeah, nothing.
yeah.
085.
But anyway, so they adjusted these plans based on that, but didn't give us an electronic copy.
Cool.
But here are a few. There are a few different, so they're not. These are not
Or they're
identical.
different?
They're a little bit different. They're not.
Okay.
They're not identical, but they are all concept plans of their site, and
It's all
it's the 2
retail.
lots. Yeah, their idea is small scale retail and office, with the anchor being a daycare.
How come
Okay.
this one shows 2 green areas?
I guess that was if they didn't develop the top lot, but that's only one of the plans. The other 3 plans have the top lot being developed.
So this would be the daycare?
Yes.
What's the total square footage? Buildable GLA? Yeah.
Buildable, I think the 2 lots is 9.6 acres.
Who's the applicant?
The applicant is a guy named Ashok Patel, and the developer is called J. Ambi Developers. That person is located in India, so we are doing the coordination with the site developer, whose name is Mark Kine from Land Design.
That's who I met.
Yes, that's who you met. Joe happened to be picking up mail when we were having that initial meeting, so he saw these plans.
And so 45.8 is the general square footage retail? GLA?
Yeah.
Okay.
The plans will vary a little bit because we showed them that the setbacks were 100 feet from residential and 85 feet from the roadways. And so he's looking to see if we can work with that a little bit, because now that we have landscape ordinances, maybe we could reduce that
Right.
so that he has more buildable area. And also Providence Road is widening, so that's also cutting into his buildable area.
That's good.
Joe, remind me, the sidewalk with the Providence Road widening, are we back to staying within the right of way? That we, as DOT, back with staying in the right of way? And I always mention that because it could impact this guy.
The sidewalk will be a part of the widening project.
Right.
Because there were a couple proposals. One was to stay within the right of way, another was to go wider.
Right, I think they were staying within the right of way because we weren't asking for anything.
Yeah, we weren't.
It looks
picking
in
out-
this, and looks in this plan that they would stay within the right of way.
That's what I remember.
Just thought you might want to throw it in your notes in case that changes.
I was just gonna put a bookmark, bookmark. I believe we approved 50 feet for Marvin Gardens in the setback when they provided the screening, just a thought.
From residential?
No, like I'm thinking from the roadway, because these show 85, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The residential, I don't know that I'd touch too much, but at least just in terms of the roadway buffer or the roadway setback, it's 50 feet.
Okay.
Just
I'll let
as a
them know that.
marker.
Well,
It's not a lot, that's about what Coles is, isn't it? Less than that, Coles is less.
Coles? Who's Coles?
What's the setback from the road, from Ray Road?
Oh,
Marvin Center?
No.
well.
I questioned a building, I just saw a house going up there, it was too close to the, I had Derek go check it just to see if they were too close to the road. But I thought,
So
for residential, it's
Starbucks-
50 feet is what I understand.
Yeah, so Starbucks off that road is like 15 feet.
That's 15? Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit more.
Yeah, it could, and that's why I hesitate, because I think it
It's hard to screen
fluctuates a
their
little
garbage
bit.
cans,
But yeah, it's about 15
I don't.
feet.
you know, that's my point.
That was-
So is that
Okay,
what you would
50
allow?
feet. What's that? No, not me.
No? Okay. That's,
No, that's what I don't, I mean, that's
Maybe
what
that's
you
what you
get
don't
when you
allow,
don't
but
have
50.
an ordinance.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to the point that I've always made, drive by there right now, I guarantee you there'll be at least 3 or 4 garbage cans sitting out as their frontage with nothing. Garbage.
Sorry, I was gonna say, on that note, in fact, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I believe on out parcel
Well, here's.
1 in the
Can I
Marvin
make a
Gardens.
suggestion, Mary?
What is the, just have a look at it?
Just let it come to us organically.
Yes.
Don't make
Don't-
suggestions.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
Thank
gonna
you,
say.
Rob.
I wouldn't say make any suggestions. I'm
Yeah.
just showing this to you for FYI because
Okay.
this happened. We met with the applicant. We had our initial staff meeting, and we advised him to consider a pre-application meeting with council.
Awesome.
So, as you said, it will come to you organically. We don't have to do any
No
decision making or.
Now
So
be
can I see
careful,
that, Joe?
is the,
Curious to see.
I always get confused, is this considered an ICD?
This is not.
This would
is
be-
a CCCD,
Right.
So
commercial corridor conditional.
this one won't follow the quasi judicial guidelines?
No conditional zoning.
Alright, because if it does, we shouldn't be doing pre-meetings.
No,
as
this,
a council.
No, no.
this one's
um,
legislative, so we're okay.
Okay,
Right, and it's explicitly mentioned in that ordinance
Gotcha.
that the applicant is encouraged to have up to 3 open work sessions, open to public work sessions with council, and that's called pre-application meeting.
is that part of the pre-application structure we just approved today?
Both. So
We've
that-
been working on that for a couple of years, because it used to be someone would come in, and there's still people that do it, and will burden your time 20
Oh,
times
sorry.
without ever submitting a sketch plan. That's why we came up with that policy.
That's not that.
It's
Okay.
a
It's not.
No, but it's
Pre-application.
reflected, so that initiating development policy, so you remember way back when we revised the
have the ordinance
conditional
printed out.
zoning
I'll just bring it.
ordinance? Remember after we went through Raven
Miller, and then we went through, we went all those changes. So in there, I worked in a pre-application process with council. And then, because it worked so well, we took that and put it into the initiating development.
There's two different ones. I don't remember which they're called. One's called initial meeting. One's called a pre-initial meeting or something. One's called a pre-application.
Meeting.
One's with staff. One's with council. We actually can charge for the staff meeting.
Right. So in 151, 251 for zoning amendments for conditional districts, the following provides an outline of the steps involved in a conditional district map amendment, where step 1 is the initial meeting with staff. We had that. Step 2 is an optional pre-application meeting with village council, which I encourage him to do because he will want to know the thoughts.
Receptivity.
Yes, exactly, of council, and that's exactly here. So let me just read that for you.
Is this what you wrote, Mayor? Nice.
Let me just read that for you so that you know what's coming potentially in the very near future. So this is under 151, 251, D2, pre-application meeting with the village council. The following is a recommended step in the process. The applicant may arrange open work session meeting with the village council. This optional meeting is intended to give a prospective applicant an opportunity to gauge this council's receptiveness to two main factors prior to significant investment in application. 1, the village council's receptiveness to rezoning the land in question to a new zoning district classification, and 2, the village council's receptiveness to a conceptual rezoning plan. So that's the idea that's coming soon, and this is our...
We talked about that before to save them a lot of money, because they may have an idea coming in and, nobody in council is even in favor of it. It saves everybody money.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of time and meetings and seeing if we can do that. So that's a good move.
It's exciting.
Okay.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, that's
No problem.
great.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Kit, did I get the name right?
Yeah.
I apologize, I mispronounced your name in the last.
It's okay. I get
You get that a lot. Okay.
variation.
Review of actions, Barbie.
Okay. We're going to move the charter discussion to the consent agenda on April the 10th. The resident proposal will be moved to April the 10th. Conflict of interest and disclosure forum to the April meeting. August 9th minutes to the April meeting. You've tabled the ETJ until the May work session, so we'll add that to the agenda. And the procurement policy will be added to the April agenda. And then Rohit will send the information on the Providence widening to Councilwoman Scoot. Did I forget anything?
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any other comments? Okay. Last up is council comments, right?
Thank you, staff. Thank you for the updates. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with my tardiness. Life gets in the way sometimes. That's it. Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you very much for the work you guys have done. That packet is incredible. The bidding packet and everything you've done. I really miss planning updates, as Christina will tell you. I feel so out of touch if I don't have an idea of what's happening. So it's nice to see things progressing, and you've got a good handle on things. I'm really happy about that. And I'm really glad we had a chance to pull out a lot of those road issues. My apologies for being somewhat frustrated with it all, but it just feels like, whether it's a combination of turnover or just a new project or whatever the case is, it's been, I'm sure it's frustrating for everyone else, but definitely it's been frustrating for me, because I hate to make decisions when I'm not 100% sure if I understand all the issues. So thank you for helping me through that. And my apologies for being late this morning. When I did receive, it was information I asked for from Barbie, who was kind enough to send it to me this morning, but I also wanted to wrap my head around that before I got here to make any kind of decisions about expenditures. $300,000, $388,000 is a lot of money, so I wanted to be sure I understood that. And then there's other phone calls on top of that. But anyway, got here, and I appreciate you all being patient with me, and it was great having the engineers here too. And onward and upward. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. And I didn't have much. Again, it's frustrating when, the only thing that frustrated us is we were gone because we had waited 20 minutes. So it was frustrating because we hadn't heard from anyone. So in all fairness, I think we need to, a phone call would be helpful. I think we tried to reach out and stuff. Anything that would have helped us, because this meeting almost did not take place. We were literally walking up and walking out, but then I asked him a question just to get clarification on roads, and we were to do that later. So that's all we're asking for, a little bit of consideration for a phone call saying we're 15 minutes late, 20, but we didn't get any of that. So that's what was frustrating from our mind. So anyways.
If you don't mind me saying though, I did speak to Christina. She knew I was rushing, right? You knew I was on my way. I just honestly didn't stop to get my phone because I was trying to get here. So I did reach out, just so you know.
No worries. That's all. Thank you, staff, for getting this. Hopefully we get some things checked off the box and stuff. I'll be here for Monday. I'll see you tonight. I think there's room for one more councilman if they want to go to it's an open meeting, kind of public meeting that Waxah's holding and stuff.
This is the Waxaw?
This is the critical intersections meeting.
Oh, the critical
It's happening in Waxaw.
Okay.
And
not the conflict of something or other?
Not reduced conflict, that already happened.
Oh, that
that one's already happened and stuff. And then I did receive an email. I'm gonna have to go back and get clarification on something about I got a note saying it's time again to any conflict of interest thing. So I don't know if that went to you or if you ever got yours for the CRTPO.
Oh, finally got it this week, right?
Okay, yeah. So I think I have to update that. If there's no changes, just a reminder and stuff. But,
okay, thank you. Yeah.
I think that's all I have, but thank you again, and we'll see you tonight and go from there. All right.
Yeah, send me the information right now. I've got a splitting headache, but I wouldn't mind if I feel better. I'll go.
It's open, and I don't think we have to be there the whole time.
No.
I certainly don't plan to, but.
The information is simply it's at Waxhaw Police Department, and we're gonna head out there at around 4:45 from here.
Okay.
All right, so I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, so moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, thanks. Barbie, I'm gonna try and get this to you, everything that